Might have to because I get a little forgetful with it. So my guest today is Emily Swett. Emily, thank you so much for being here. Archaeologist, historian for the forest. Am I missing anything?
No, well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And well, it was cool because some people kind of they're just like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, it's a podcast. Like, what's it about? And I explain a little bit, and they're like, maybe. And then usually after a while, they're like, find some interest and listen to the podcast, and they're like, oh, doesn't sound too bad. And then they're like, oh, I'll do it. But you were just like, yeah, sure, let's do it. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've heard about your podcast. We're big fans in Heritage.
Oh, you guys are too kind.
Well, I jumped at the opportunity, and anytime there's an opportunity to talk about heritage and archaeology and cultural resources, I mean, we should take it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, getting the word out there. Like I think me
Yeah.
and you talked about that before, just letting people kind of know more about the history of where you live, and I think that helps. Like you feel more part of the land if you know what it's been through. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's kind of important to know, too. I mean, especially for all of us who are recreating out in the Bitterroot.
Yeah.
It's kind of knowing the history, and it helps protect the sites, treat them with respect.
Yeah.
So
Totally. Yeah, and then knowing the history and the landmarks too, right? Because everyone knows, if you're going up Magruder Corridor, you have like Nez Pass, of course, and then Magruder Massacre site, and then
Right.
all these like landmarks where you're like, oh yeah, how far up were you especially up the West Fork? You're like, how far are you up the West Fork? You're like, oh, I made it up to Nez Pass or Magruder Ranger Station or Magruder Massacre site. Like there's all these little landmarks. They're historical.
We get a lot of calls, too, from members of the public who are wondering why certain places are named certain things. Like, why is Magruder Ranger Station named Magruder Ranger Station when it used to be Deep Creek? So,
Oh, man, I think I knew that. That's wild. So what?
yeah.
When did it change?
It changed in the late 20s
Oh.
when the Bitterroot National Forest became the administrator for that area. Originally, it was under the Selway National Forest.
Oh, I never knew.
And that was actually the Deep Creek Ranger Station.
Oh,
So
wow.
when the Bitterroot kind of became the administrator, because the forest boundaries shifted, so the Selway became part of the Bitterroot and some of the other forests that are our neighbors.
Oh, yeah. Wow, yeah, I never knew, because I've heard the name Deep Creek, and I think some other folks have called it that before, and I did not know it was the same thing as Magruder. I was like,
It's the same thing.
oh, where's that? I thought it was just like another historic spot, because there's a map, the lookout map that we were messing with the other day that has all the historic lookouts on it. It has like an historic ranger station at like Medicine Tree and like a few spots that either may not have existed or did for a short period of time. So I thought that was what Deep Creek was. I didn't realize it was the same as Magruder. Is Magruder.
It is Magruder.
Cool.
But the buildings that are there now were constructed by the Bitterroot. So that's Magruder. The buildings that were part of Deep Creek, the much earlier structures from the 20s, are no longer there for the most part. There is one structure from like the late 20s that's part of the site.
Which one's that?
By the fire cache.
Oh, by the fire cache? Oh.
Yeah.
Up kind of on the hill, right? Before you like go down to the horse corral. Is that the fire cache? Oh no, the fire cache is
the fire
in
cache
between.
it's in the middle. No, it's okay.
As it was coming out, I was like, oh, wait a minute, I know where the fire cache is. Yeah, because if you're on the main road, it's kind of between the road and the ranger station, right? Is the fire cache there?
Kind of. It's down more in the center by the administrative building, we call it. But
yeah, I'm calling it wrong because the ranger's house is like the first one as you go in.
Right. So the ranger house is the first one, and that's usually one that's rentable by the public.
Oh.
Then there's the second structure. It's the office building, in quotations. And that's the administrative building. So like when we do our wilderness surveys, because we're supposed to go out and survey a certain amount of acres in the Frank Church and the Selway, we'll use Magruder as kind of our launch point, and we'll stay in the administrative cabin.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. That's cool. Yeah, the administrative cabin's really nice. I got to kind of check it out when the Montana Elders were there. I think it's Montana Elders. It's a cool group that helps out with the youth, and wish I could remember that better. I need like a little checks. I need like some sheets so I can like reference all the folks that I've worked with and got to hang out with that I think are really cool. And but that group is there, and they help out with the youth and teach them like fly fishing and tying flies and archery and and like some axe throwing. It's really cool, and some horsemanship too. Yeah. So, but how did you end up here? I guess
they advertised a job for an archaeologist, a recent graduate. So someone who is either kind of like finishing up school or just graduated, and I applied and got the job.
Oh, awesome. So, yeah, I mean, you're like fresh out of school and on the Forest Service then, huh?
Yeah, I'm still working on my master's. I'm still in school, but
Oh, really?
I was fresh out of my bachelor's program.
Oh,
So,
cool. Where'd you get
yeah,
your bachelor's at?
at the University of Nevada, Reno.
Oh, yeah, Reno. Yeah, I think you told me that. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So you've like jammed in a ton of information in a short period of time then, huh?
Yeah, it's been trial by fire, I'd say.
Yeah, I bet.
But
Dang. Well, I mean, I'm really impressed because
thank
just talking to you the other day and all the knowledge you had on the forest, and I've been here since 2019 or 20,
Oh,
and
wow.
on the fire side of things, but you know way more than I do
No.
about the forest. It's like I think you do, but
No.
yeah, it's impressive, and then impressive that you were just like, sure, I'll come talk about a forest I just am brand new on. That's really cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's an important opportunity. I've been here for a little over a year, and I've worked hard to kind of research and learn as much as I can. I still have a lot to learn, and I'd love to talk to you more about your experience in fire and learn more from you as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't have a lot to, at least, everyone's experience is always like boring to them, I think, but I guess I got a few things I can share. But what I want to have you on, though, is talk about the Magruder Massacre. Is that what you want to talk about? We can talk about whatever you want to talk about, but
Well, I think we're getting close to Halloween, so this
That-
is the time to talk about the Magruder Massacre.
yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you said that because I meant to kind of intro us. Is that like kind of a Halloween podcast? And I was going to get some decorations, but kind of forgot.
It's okay.
So yeah.
It's been a long week.
It has, yeah. And I had some like ones I was going to borrow from the office, but they just didn't seem to like really match the decor. So
That's
but
okay.
yeah, so I guess kind of doing a Halloween podcast here, talking about like murders around the national forest, historic murders, I guess.
Yeah, this one in particular, because I think it's important to heritage, specifically as a program, and we'll kind of talk about that at the end.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great. So yeah, wherever you want to kick off, I guess.
So, I mean, this is a really rich and unique valley. It's very rich in history. So it includes different types of history. So it's like pre-contact history, post-contact history, but we're going to talk about a specific historic story, which is the murder of Lloyd Magruder. Ooh, spooky.
It is spooky.
So in the 1860s, a lot of people, especially from the southeast, were moving out west to try and strike it rich during the gold rush. This was kind of during and a little bit after the Civil War, so they were trying to escape kind of everything that was going on in the East Coast.
Oh.
And Lloyd Magruder was one of these individuals. So he actually was from Montgomery County, Maryland.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that part of it, like trying to escape the Civil War and all the probably like just chaos and stuff that was going on involved with that. Wow. I won't interrupt you, but that just caught
It
me
was
as
a brutal
interesting.
war, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Probably not. Yeah, and especially if you were somewhere between, like if you didn't want to take a side or whatever, you'd probably just be best to take off and go find a new life, I imagine.
Yeah, and the promise of kind of getting involved in what was going on out here with the gold rush and striking it rich, that was a really big idea.
Yeah.
And there was your opportunity to get a ton of money. You could be just like your wealthy neighbor.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and all the stories. I mean, even like that old Johnny Horton song about going to Alaska and striking it rich, and then at one point in the song, he's talking about two of the fellows who were mining. They're just talking about the old sweetheart that they left back at home, and he's like, I'd trade all the gold in this land for a ring upon Jenny's hand, I think is how the song goes. So yeah, it's kind of funny, but that was, like you said, that was a big deal. It was like try to go out and make that money and maybe bring it home, huh?
Yeah, and just surviving.
Yeah.
One of the best ways to survive at that time was to try and get some type of money and funding.
Yeah, not a lot of jobs probably, and
yeah, it was a different time. So the gold rush gave people an opportunity who had maybe not been born into money and didn't really see a way out for themselves to kind of achieve what they wanted.
Yeah, probably in the alternatives, like I don't even know, probably gold mines or war, I guess. At that point, if the Civil War is going on.
Yeah.
Dang.
So he actually arrived in Lewiston, Idaho around 1862, and he did become very successful, not so much at mining, but as a merchant and a trader. And he primarily worked kind of in the Clearwater and Salmon River regions. And he frequently ran mule trains kind of packed with provisions and equipment for a lot of the miners that were coming into the area.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, this area is really narrow. You have very narrow trails and steep-sided canyons, so it's not like an easy trek to kind of get from one spot to the other. And this is way before cars or airplanes, so
Yeah.
you're on horseback, just chugging along.
Yeah, and maybe just taking someone's word for it, like, oh yeah, there's
Yeah.
a trail that kind of goes up this ridge, and then, you'll see a rock, and you take a right, or whatever it might be, like, there's probably not I mean, maybe there's a decent trail, but even then, like, it'd probably be pretty treacherous, I imagine.
Yeah, even following just like a pretty well-determined trail is difficult at this time.
Yeah.
And it's difficult today.
Yeah, totally. Like, yeah, even today you got to plan like water and where you're going to
Yeah.
sleep, and, especially with a big pack string, too.
Oh, yeah. It's difficult.
Yeah.
So in August of 1863, Lloyd kind of took a string of 60 mules, and he's got it loaded with merchandise and miner supplies, and he's heading for Bannock, Montana, which is a big mining camp at that time.
Oh, yeah.
And this is in Montana territory right now, so it's not the state of Montana, so it's the Wild West.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that, right? 1889 or something.
It's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
Dang.
So the trip that he took is roughly 300 miles, so it took him a little over 2 months.
Wait, how many miles you said again?
Over 300.
Over 300? Jeez. Yeah, it took me a minute to process that.
Yeah.
And how many months?
Just over 2.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Get my leg up here. Dang, that's nuts. Holy cow.
It's a long trek.
Yeah. Man.
And I think some of our surveys are long, but I don't think we've ever done a 300-mile one, so
Yeah,
it's pretty wild.
I've never walked that far. I'd like to know, I mean, I guess the Appalachian Trail and like the Pacific Crest Trail are probably way further than that, but man, that's a long ways. Holy
It
cow.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be in shape. Like, that's rough.
Yeah. Especially, if you just came off the couch to try to do that, whew. You'd be burying me out there.
It would be hard.
Yeah.
But in order to kind of cross the Upper Selway, which is where he's going, he utilized portions of the southern Nez Perce Trail. Today, portions of this trail are actually preserved through the Nimiipuu National Historic Trail, so you can kind of walk portions of that, and there is a visitor center. They have a fantastic website, too, that kind of shows you maps, and this is the trail which was carved by members of the Nez Perce tribe during their flight from their homelands when they were being pursued by U.S. Army Generals Howard, Sturgis, and Miles.
Yeah, some of my people there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know much about that, so that's interesting too. But I don't want to get you off subject. I got questions, but we'll save it for a different one.
Okay. Well, that too is also a great topic to talk about the next time we do a podcast.
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking that too, because that's a heck of a journey itself. And my older brother just finished the book. I think it's called Flight of the Nez Perce, and he learned a lot, and a lot of stuff that wasn't passed down by my grandma. So kind of interesting. So yeah, we could definitely probably do almost a whole podcast just on that.
Oh, easily. Yeah. I mean, the entire history of this valley is really fascinating and amazing.
Yeah.
Pre-contact is really interesting.
Yeah. Oh, it totally is. Yeah. And I mean, was it Lewis and Clark? Just down the. I'm gonna try hard not to derail us, but my brain like ADD kicks in. But I mean, just down in like was it French Basin or Ross's Hole? Ross's Hole, right?
Ross's Hole.
Where Lewis and Clark came through, right?
That's where they initially met the Bitterroot Salish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason I know that is because it was from a Charlie Russell painting I saw.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, cool. And saw it recently, so.
Yeah, that's a really cool painting. And it's, I believe it was on display in Helena at the Montana Historical Society.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
That's
don't
cool.
quote me.
Yeah, I mean, it might be still or was, I think
it
move
might
around
be
a little bit,
somewhere
right?
else. Yeah, but there's also a really great PBS documentary that kind of talks about Russell and his work.
Yeah, I got to see a chunk of that. Yeah, it was really good. They ask you if you want to buy a copy, and usually at the end I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, it was interesting, but after that one I was like, man, I should try to buy that one, because that was really, I could watch that one a few times. But I'll let you keep going.
Okay. Well, so even though he's using this kind of already pre-carved out trail, it's still considerably more dangerous than what he kind of was doing before most of his runs as a merchant. His friend Hill Beachy actually warned him not to make the trip, and he furnished him with a firearm for the journey. And this will be a little spooky, but Beachy had a dream the night before in which he foresaw Lloyd's fate. So a little bit of a psychic moment there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's spooky. I mean, you got like goosebumps. Yeah. 'Cause, I mean, you only catch a little bit of the story, you know, when you live in the valley or you fight fire and you hear like Magruder and then someone's like, oh yeah, I got killed. And you're like, oh, how'd that happen? And you kind of get a rough story. Like even the 60 mules, it's like, I heard that and I was like, that's a lot of mules. I mean, that's a huge string.
It's a huge string. Yeah.
So like I wasn't sure if I was telling that right when I repeat the story to people. So that's impressive there. So he'd never done the trip before, and his buddy Peachy was like, maybe this is a pretty rough one. You don't want to do this one?
Yeah, I mean, he had been kind of doing various trips out from Lewiston into Montana, but I don't think he had taken quite so large a mule pack or going down this particular route.
Oh.
So, yeah. So Beachy warned him not to go.
Yeah.
He didn't, spoiler alert, he didn't listen to his friend.
Yeah, his friend didn't go, right?
No, Beachy stayed behind. I think he had a job in Lewiston. He was a prominent member of the community.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, and he'll feature pretty heavily towards the end of the story too.
Oh,
this
yeah.
kind of just his introduction.
Yeah, don't let me ruin the story.
Oh,
so
no.
Stop me if I'm asking too much.
No, you're not. No. So, they were about a few days from Bannock when 7 additional travelers kind of showed up on horseback and joined Magruder's caravan. So, I mean, he's got 60 mules in his pack string. I mean, it's a lot. So he's obviously hired a few people to help him out. Normal. So they were miners from Lewiston and were planning to try their luck in Montana. So they were also trying to strike it rich, find some gold. So, I mean, at this point, Magruder and his the people he's hired, they're exhausted. So they agree to allow the men to assist his team in exchange for just food. So then they reach Bannock, and the company, Magruder's company, they learn that most of the miners have kind of left. They've headed further east to Elder Gulch, where Virginia City has kind of popped up. And that's a pretty big spot for mining now, or it was then.
Yeah.
So Magruder ended up selling nearly $30,000 worth of just goods in a short amount of time.
And that $30,000 today would be like ridiculous, right?
Yeah, that would be insane.
Yeah, like the value of $30,000 back then is probably it's got to be over $1 million. Right?
Oh, easily. Yeah. I mean, he's rich. Like he's made it. Like, this is what he came here to do, and he's done it.
Awesome.
He's good. He's got this.
Had to feel great for a minute.
I think he did, yeah. I'm sure he did. I mean, he probably felt like finally, like I've worked really hard. I've, traveled so far from my home. I've made a new home for myself, and he's got a wife and he's got kids. Like now he's, finally got some money to
support the family.
Support everybody, yeah. He's probably feeling accomplished at this point, I'd say.
Yeah, it's got to feel pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Heck of a journey. I mean, just getting there.
Right. I mean, he just made a 300-mile trip down the Selway, and this is not easy terrain.
No. Yeah, if anyone hasn't been to the Selway, I advise Googling it and taking some pictures, look at some pictures and videos. It's pretty heinous, I guess would be the right word. It's pretty heinous country. It's pretty gnarly.
It's gnarly. And if you don't know what you're getting into, it can be real dangerous real quick.
Oh, I bet. Because even nowadays, if you go up top Nez Pass or any of the areas that go up to where Salmon Mountain Lookout is, which isn't too far from the massacre site, I mean, it's still there's nothing out there. And this is modern times, 2023. So back in 1862, they said it was.
About this time it's 1863.
63. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So
1862 he shows up in Lewiston, and 1863 he's on the way
to
Bannock.
Oh,
yeah.
gotcha. All right.
So it takes him a year to kind of get established and, you know, get set up with his merchant company. So.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, pretty quick though. I mean, especially
bad,
in those times,
right?
you know,
Yeah.
snail mail and like get everything set up. Like that'd be a lot of work to get that going. And now he's in Bannock, huh?
Yeah, now he's in Bannock. He's just sold a ton of stuff and he's just made a ton of money.
That's awesome.
So now he's rich. And he's got to go back. He's got to, go back 300 miles and he's still got all those mules. So.
Oh yeah, 60.
Yeah. So most of the members of his crew actually ended up leaving his employment at this time. They're choosing to seek their wealth in the gold mines. Oh. And, they're kind of leaving them shorthanded. He came here with 60 mules. Now he's got to get back to Lewiston with 60 mules, and he's all by himself.
Oh, brutal.
I know. He's just made all this money, but he's all by himself for this really long, very difficult journey. And he's got to care for his mules, which, he cares for. They're important.
Yeah,
that's his livelihood.
Yeah.
Also, mules are kind of cute.
They are, yeah. Anyone who's been around mules, like, and especially, you're living with them nonstop, probably the whole time he's had them, because you have to take care of them all the time, and especially on a, 300-mile tour,
Yeah.
They are what make you money, so you take care of them like they're your own kids,
Well, yeah, it's a respect thing, too. These are animals that are, helping you. They're, like, holding, pulling your stuff for you.
Yeah.
They've just helped you gain $30,000.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you don't want to leave them behind. You want to treat them well.
Yeah, totally, yeah. Reward them for their effort, too,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a special animal. I really like mules a lot.
I do, too. You have to be careful, like, not to spook them, and you have to treat them with respect, but if you do, they're fantastic.
Yeah, totally. Yep. Yeah, you gotta be safe around them for sure.
Well, every animal. Just respectfully treat, and they'll be great to hang out with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you get that, and you get that return, most people get it from, like, a dog, but you get the same thing from a mule, it's just a lot bigger and a little more dangerous in some ways. Yeah. But, yeah, like I said, you treat it with respect and care, and you get it back from them for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And I've no doubt his mules felt the same about him.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a mutual relationship. Everybody was ganging and everybody had respect for each other. So.
Yeah. Even the mules probably felt the accomplishment of making that long trip.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. They're like, hey, we just did like a 300-mile hike over this really steep mountain.
Yeah.
Look at us go.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at us.
Yeah, we're awesome.
Yeah, we're cool.
Yeah, totally. And they vibe off human emotion. You hear a lot of times like folks getting bucked off who are really nervous about a horse, and the horse feels that energy, and then they get a little tight on the rein, and usually they end up getting launched off the back of the horse because of the energy that they're putting off. So the mules definitely feel that too. Oh
yeah, and that's why it's really important. Like if you're gonna do horse riding or work with mules, to go through training.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Here on the forest, like we have to go through horsemanship training before we can work with the horses or the mules. And for heritage, we use pack support when we do our wilderness surveys. So the mule team will pack out some of our gear for us, but we're always thinking like, how heavy is this going to be? Is this going to be okay for the mule? Like.
Yeah, and balancing the weight on the mule too.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have a fantastic pack crew here on the Bitterroot, especially out in the West Fork. They do a great job of taking care of the animals. So.
Yeah, they're awesome. Yeah, I got to work, I think, with all of them now at this point. And, they're all amazing.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see them go to work, and I mostly get in their way, so.
No.
A little bit. Distract them while they're trying to work and ask them a bunch of dumb questions, probably, is usually what I do.
Oh, no, it's always good to ask questions because, you stop and think. Even as, like, professional, you're doing everything day in, day out. Sometimes getting asked questions makes you stop and think. You're like, oh.
That's true.
You kind of reset your brain a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of helps, I think. Kind of break up sometimes. Just
the monotony of it, yeah. No, totally, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I've been around horses mostly and packing in hunting camps that were just horses. And so when I'm around mules, I'm more fascinated. And been, same with fire support. We had, packed in supplies by mules, especially when I was in the Bob Marshall Wilderness. And so I was bugging that packer too. I was like, what you got going on here? How much weight can these things carry? And watch them build like the manis and stuff. Which is super cool. But
it's important to know that stuff, especially even if they're helping to support what you guys are doing out in the field, because then you get a better sense of kind of what they have to do and what the mules can carry, what they can't carry, and how much weight are you willing to carry versus are you willing to have the mule carry.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, especially in smoke jump world, try to, and a little bit of a pride thing, try to carry maybe a little more than
Was the same in Heritage?
Oh, yeah, I bet, yeah. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Just being human, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
We're pretty competitive too, I think, in our crew. It's a good competitive, it's a very positive environment.
Yeah, totally. Make each other better, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, the old saying, like, you surround yourself with, so if people are go-getters and,
Right.
you're going to be a go-getter yourself. Typically you would be anyways, but they help build you up for sure.
Yeah. I like to think that's what we're doing.
Yeah, from, just a short period of time been around you guys are definitely awesome. I mean, like, the energy coming from you guys' area in the office is cool and it's contagious for sure,
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the same for you. Yeah.
I'm building my little corner of the office, us in the planning area, but yeah.
Well, I mean, we're slowly building that part of the building up, so.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and getting all the post-COVID like kind of relations back together. Because the SO was empty. For the last year and a half almost. And now everyone's getting back in and getting the
that's good.
Getting
Yeah.
relationships. Yeah, and working on stuff like this.
Yeah, which is really exciting.
Yeah, it's really cool. So, Magruder's in Bannock.
Yes, so he's getting ready to leave Bannock because he's just made all the money that he needed at this point. I mean, I'm sure he was probably planning to continue to work because then he could continue to make money.
Yeah.
Which is important. So, of the 7 miners who kind of joined his party outside of Bannock, 4 actually offered to travel back with him and assist with the return trip just in exchange for food.
Oh.
Just a little suspicious.
Yeah.
You ask me.
Yeah, it seems
But
a little
Magruder
cheap.
didn't, so.
Yeah.
And then he ended up hiring 2 additional crew members, and then also was joined by 2 brothers and their pack string. So he gave them permission to kind of travel with him. So he's got a good little group.
Yeah, kind of built the team back up a little bit.
A little bit. I mean, he's got some more mules because he's now got another pack string that's kind of following him out. But he's got a good amount of people to support him. So it's not too bad. It's not just him alone with 60 mules. So
that'd be like impossible pretty much.
It would be hard.
Yeah.
A lot harder than his journey already is.
Yeah, totally. He's already wore out from the one way, I imagine,
Yeah, I bet. And I mean, they leave Virginia City on October 3rd, and by October 12th, I mean, they're in the Bitterroot Valley.
Dang. It's covered quite a bit of ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, folks can pull out a map or their phone or something and check it out. Like that, back to the Bitterroot is, and you got to imagine on foot. It's
right.
A long, long way, Like,
it's a long ways.
Yeah, so they cover some pretty good ground because Bannock's almost in Dillon, Montana, and then, we're in Hamilton, Montana is like the Bitterroot. So that's a cruise.
I mean, they did a great job.
Yeah.
And then, so that's when they begin the ascent into the Selway River along the Southern Nez Perce Trail.
Oh,
so they're going back. And it's not too long after that, on the evening of October 13th, Magruder is tending to the mules when all of a sudden one of the 4 miners who offered to travel back with him, he drives an axe into the back of Magruder's head.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so they end up murdering him with several blows. I mean, they just kind of hack at him until he...
Until they're sure he's no more.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a little gruesome.
That's pretty gruesome.
Yeah.
And, like, Magruder, no suspicions. Just...
I don't know.
I guess
I haven't asked him, but...
No way of knowing now.
I don't think he had a choice. I mean, he had 60 mules, and his crew had deserted him because, they're seeking a better life as well, and you can't be mad at that. But
Yeah,
kind
absolutely.
of left him in the dust. So these are just strangers. I mean, nothing happened on the way there, so I'm sure he probably was like, I guess, like, he had no other options.
True, yeah, desperate times, right?
Yeah.
Desperate measures.
Unfortunately, it just didn't work out.
Yeah, well, that's horrible.
Yeah. So, I mean, the murderers recovered his $30,000, and according to legend, there was another individual. His name is Page. And he's told not to interfere by the murderers.
Oh.
So Page kind of has some knowledge of this area. So they need him to kind of guide them back through the mountain. And they're not planning to go back to Lewiston. They're trying to escape somewhere else. Because they know if they go back to Lewiston, people are going to be like, what happened to Magruder? Like, what did you do?
Yeah, there's be some questions.
Yeah, they're going to have to, get out of that somehow. So they're trying to escape somewhere else. But, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
So there's 4 other people remaining in the caravan. So you have the 2 murderers and Page. He's kind of the new guide that they've set aside, so they haven't killed him. There's the 2 brothers that have their own separate pack strain that are traveling with Magruder. So they murder them as well.
They murder the brothers too?
Yeah, I mean, no witnesses,
Yeah, true.
Otherwise,
dang.
Yeah, give back the money and you will end up in jail, so.
Yeah, holy cow. Cold-blooded, these guys.
I know. But by the end of the night, 5 people had been murdered. So everyone that was part of Magruder's caravan, except for the 3 murderers and Page. So another guy joins the 2 murderers, and he kills the other miners that were with them.
So there's 3 left at this point, you said, right?
So there's 4.
Oh,
the
4,
3
yeah.
murderers and Page. He's the
3 murders.
guide.
Yeah. My math wasn't
Sorry.
working. No, you explained it perfect. My math wasn't working in my head. Oh, wow. Because the first, just a little side note, I guess. The first time I heard the story, I was, I can't remember. I think I was actually like going up Blodgett, and someone told me a story about Magruder, but they only told me that Magruder was killed. Lloyd Magruder was killed.
Right.
So I was like, massacre. Wouldn't that just be like the murder, like Magruder murder, not Magruder massacre? So I'm like, it had to be more than one, but no one knew the rest of the story. So that's interesting. I know it was 5. Dang.
Yeah, 5 people.
Yeah.
Maintenance.
Rough night.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah. October. Do they have a date on it?
October 13th is what the historic records say.
Oof.
Yeah.
What if it was a Friday?
Might have been.
I could probably look that up. I'm gonna look that up later.
Yeah, I should have looked that up, but I did not. So.
I should have thought about it. I'll take the blame on this one.
No, it's okay. It's my fault.
No, well, I'll look it up. We'll figure it out.
See, I still have a lot to learn. So I guess that's year 2, right? Figuring out if this was Friday the 13th or not.
Yeah, the little things. Well, and talking to other people, because then you figure out like, oh, I didn't, like something that you kind of missed because you're like in the, I guess the meat and potatoes of it, right? Like the main story,
right.
And then you got like someone's wandering brain like mine. It was just like, was that a Friday? So it's got like, I haven't talked to someone like me whose brain wanders. Like I think it might help out a little bit.
Yeah, it is helpful because I was just, exactly. I was focused on, reporting the other details.
Yeah, the main story, and figured out what all went down, and then, I got that maybe me being annoying, maybe.
No,
Like,
this is good. It would be cool to figure out whether or not this happened on Friday. And
yeah, kind of add the spooky story part of it, I was thinking.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. And did it happen at night, do you know?
Yeah, it happened at night. So he was tending to the mules. So, you would have to stay up at night. So they had night shifts, and that's how you would kind of care for the mules.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, there are bears out here.
Well, especially back then.
Yeah. I mean, bears, mountain lions, coyotes, wolves. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of different predators out there.
Yeah, you lose one of your pack string, and that could be a real bad day. Just losing one animal, and let alone a couple, even get injured, then they can't carry the weight anymore. And
exactly.
Yeah, it could be real bad.
It could be very bad.
Yeah, so he's up tending animals then, huh?
Yeah. Well, and it could also be bad because other individuals who are kind of out there either, doing the same type of merchant trail or, their own pack stream. I mean, they could come by and they could steal your mules.
Yeah. I didn't think, because like that's, like the old Westerns always talk about the cattle wrestlers, right? The cattle wrestling days.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. That's probably alive and well at that period in time, I imagine.
Oh yeah, it definitely was. I mean, he had to stay awake, keep an eye on his mules. I mean, that's why they had the night shift. But
yeah.
I mean, he was doing stuff with mules, and he just didn't realize that the two guys were behind him, and then that was it.
Brutal. And they could, I mean, it could happen in a number of different ways, but it's thinking like, you're like, hey, what's going on? Just like walking up like casual, and then, he wouldn't suspect anything.
I don't think he thought, I don't even think he knew they were behind him. I think they just kind of snuck up. I mean, he's busy. He's like trying to get stuff for the mules. He's setting things up. It's camp. Like, he's getting prepared. He's smoking a pipe.
Oh, yeah.
I think he was lighting his pipe when they kind of walked up and...
Oh, they got him?
Yeah, they axed him.
Man, yeah, because he could have been even checking their hooves, their feet after a long trek like that. Man. And yeah. Did they find his pipe?
Maybe.
I don't know. Is that more that later on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to jump ahead.
No, it's okay. So, they've killed 5 people at this point. So they wrap up the bodies and they kind of roll them off the cliff into the little Clearwater Canyon. Their idea is that nobody's going to find these people and know what we've done. This very terrible, horrible thing.
Yeah. Trying to hide the evidence.
Yeah. So they choose the best of Magruder's stock, and then they lead the rest of the stock to a clearing off the trail, and they kill them. So now they've killed 5 people, and then they've killed a fair amount of the mules.
That doesn't seem like I guess you'd probably have trouble managing them with that many people. Geez, like, mules are worth money, and...
I know.
Yeah, what'd they do? You know what I'm saying? They were just there.
Exactly, but it would have probably been difficult for them to escape with all of those mules. Yeah. And they didn't have any of the equipment. Just had his money.
Yeah, totally, and they probably speed, trying to gather quickly, like you were saying, so extra animals would slow them down.
Yeah.
And then probably they're thinking if someone found
if they saw 60 mule string, they'd probably be a little suspicious.
Yeah, totally. Or even if they set them loose to like roam free, they'd hang out in a herd and they'd be like, why is there just like a random herd of mules out here,
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they would have like had hallmarks of Magruder's, like his saddles, stuff
brand
like
or
that.
Something maybe too, yeah. That's true.
So if someone did find them wandering about, brought them back to Lewiston, they could probably be easily identified.
Yeah, true.
So, I mean, who knows, but there's a various number of reasons why they decided
take out
the rest of the pack.
Man. You said they led them to... Where they
off the trail.
Oh, off the trail.
So, they ended up following, because, I mean, they're a pack string, so they're used to following the mule in front of them. Oh, yeah. They don't understand what's happened, really.
Yeah.
So...
unaware, just doing what they're supposed to do, doing their job.
Yeah, and they led them off the trail, because, I mean, you can't kill mules on the trail. It's a lot of mule carcasses to kind of clean up.
Yeah, there's no way you can move them.
Yeah. Yeah. So then they're not planning to return to Lewiston, but weather conditions kind of force them to detour through town. Oh. So they're purchasing stage tickets to go to Walla Walla. And the murderers are actually recognized by Hill Beachy, Magruder's friend. Oh. So, I mean, these are guys that are known around town as not being super great. I mean, they're bad guys.
Yeah.
And then, they're looking at the saddles. They're kind of like, that looks kind of like Magruder's saddle. I mean, that guy looks like his mule, Yeah. And they kind of put two and two together and kind of figure out something bad has happened.
Oh.
So, within a few days, Beachy somehow gets himself appointed as a deputy sheriff, and he takes out warrants on the murderers. But he's too late because they've already left for Walla Walla, and when he gets to Walla Walla, he finds out that they've actually bought tickets to go to San Francisco.
Oh, so they're going far away.
They're going to the big city. They're going to disappear.
Yeah.
So Beachy, he ends up telegraphing descriptions of the murderers to the San Francisco law enforcement. And they are able to arrest them, surprisingly, because his descriptions are so detailed and
Dang.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty impressive.
Really impressive, because I was thinking, like, man, if I was trying to get someone to, like, pick out my best friend out of a crowd, and I was the one describing, I don't know if I could do a good job. I'd probably get there and be someone totally different than what my friend looks like to me.
It'd be the same for me.
Yeah, like, that's really impressive.
Yeah,
Man.
I mean, he was skilled.
Yeah. Man.
And they actually arrest the murderers at the U.S. Mint. So they've deposited the money that they've taken from Magruder.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. And then the killers are brought back to Lewiston.
And then they probably have the evidence there, too, right? Because they're like, that's a lot of money all of a sudden. And they're like,
Yeah.
So that catch them kind of red-handed almost, like.
Yeah. I mean, they do.
Yeah.
So when they're brought back to Lewiston, the killers are put on trial. There's actually a lynch mob there, but Beachy is like, no, guys, like, we've got to have a fair trial. Like, we've got to do the whole process.
Yeah.
And Paige is the one, the guy who's left alive, was the quote-unquote guide, and he relays all of the gruesome details of the death of Magruder and the other 4 individuals who were murdered that evening. And he actually leads the authorities to the crime scene. So obviously the bodies aren't at the crime scene, but they recover them. So they're able to return the remains of Magruder and the other 4 individuals, and they're buried in Lewiston.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Yeah, I guess I always kind of assumed they were just buried on site because they're so far away. Oh,
No, they bring them back to Lewiston for a proper burial.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
Right. Paige kind of came through in that point, I guess.
Maybe.
Oh, more to it here.
But the other 3, so the 3 murderers, were actually hung, and this is the first hanging execution in the state of Idaho.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This story's full of, like, rich
It
history.
is.
I did not know this.
It is.
Man, I went from thinking one guy got killed to, this.
Oh, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And so Beachy only recovers $17,000 of Magruder's original $30,000. And he gives that to the widow, Magruder's widow, and his surviving children.
Oh, wow. Beachy's a really nice guy.
Yeah, he's really kind.
Yeah.
He's like, surprisingly, ends up moving to Elko, Nevada.
Oh.
And he ends up dying there. But
Beautiful.
he lived a crazy
Okay.
life, too.
Yeah. What a great guy. I mean,
Yeah.
must have been.
He was a good friend, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, the best friend ever,
Right? I mean, you can't really ask for much more.
No. I mean, get himself deputized to go find your killers and bring them to justice, I mean.
And he gets not all the money, but, a little more than half.
Yeah, totally. And that's,
17,000, nothing to sniff at,
Yeah, totally, yeah. And especially back then, I mean, that's probably hopefully enough to set her up for the rest of her days if she's smart with it,
Yeah, I mean, it would be helpful, I'm sure, for her. And then, I mean, she's lost her husband, so she's lost kind of her way to make money.
Yeah, especially in those days. I mean, not a lot of options for a female, I imagine.
No, the options are pretty limited. But in the West, not as limited as they would have been out in the East.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, which one's more limited, the East or?
The East, I'd say, probably.
Oh, yeah, I could see that, kind of more the society kind of role.
Yeah. I guess you could say the quote-unquote civilized.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is the Wild West.
True.
So.
And all hands on deck probably when it comes to
Yeah.
any work that needs to get done,
Yeah.
able bodies.
Very much so.
Yeah, makes sense. It helps with equality there, if you just need every able body,
Yeah. Well, and the killers ended up spending a little less than half gambling in San Francisco.
Oh, that's what, a little less than half, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's where the 13,000 went?
Yeah.
Oh, or so, I guess.
Yeah, about. So, I mean, just gambling.
That's a lot.
I can't believe.
That's a ton of money. They must be really bad at it. 'Cause that's a
They
ton
are
of money.
really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really bad in
Humans.
general.
Yeah.
But obviously, they didn't have a great success in San Francisco at the tables. So,
Yeah, horrible gamblers, it sounds like.
really terrible.
Yeah.
But what's actually really interesting is that one of the 3 murderers who are hung actually accused Paige, this supposed guide, of being kind of the mastermind behind the murders.
Oh.
He's kind of the one who, started it. And Paige is like, no, I was the guide.
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with this.
Oh.
But he ends up actually dying a little over a year later in a brothel. He's shot. So, I don't know. He sounds a little suspicious as well.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, if he's an upstanding guy, probably wouldn't have been murdered in a brothel.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I don't know. I mean, wrong time, wrong place.
Could have been.
So
Yeah.
maybe he just was in the middle of something he wasn't supposed to be in the middle of.
Yeah. Maybe just walking out on the street and
Yeah, exactly.
got him or walking in or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. That'd be tough, especially because, you wouldn't have a chance to explain yourself if that's how you went out.
No, that's it.
Yeah, but it does make it seem a little sketchy.
Right? It's a little questionable.
Questionable, that's the best word, yeah.
Yeah. But
for sure.
The accounts vary is what we'll say.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's what makes it cool at mystery, though, right? Is like you don't know 100% of anything, right? From what you're telling me, like we know all these details based on what Paige was saying, so and what Beachy found, so
right.
It's most of the puzzle, but not everything, which kind of it's cool because it leaves your brain a little time to wander around on it and maybe think about different angles.
Yeah, and when they actually committed the murders, they ended up burning the crime scene, try and get rid of the evidence.
Oh, yeah, probably like any of the blood or anything that was probably there and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. All right.
And Magruder's story doesn't end there. So in 1992, there was a private detective, and he had an interest in the Magruder Massacre, and so he began investigating. So he traveled to the remote wilderness to kind of identify where Magruder had been killed. Kind of not long after the murders, not right after, but not long after, some Forest Service employees had actually erected a sign on a tree.
Oh.
And they'd actually found an original sign that was placed up around 1864, 1865 by probably Beachy or someone else from the Lewiston community or someone from the Bitterroot and, heard about Magruder, had known what had happened, where the massacre had occurred.
Yeah.
So the sign was replaced again in the 50s and then again in the 60s. So people knew where the massacre site was. Wasn't a big secret.
Yeah. But then this guy just got curious in 1992.
It's natural, and he was just excited, I think, to kind of maybe solve what he thought was a mystery almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it, because like right now I'm thinking like maybe I should walk out there and
you'll see, right?
Yeah.
Well, but he ends up using a metal detector. And the private detective and his friend located metal, and they started digging. They unearthed several artifacts, including a harness buckle, 2 harness tacks, a metal surveyor tripod pieces, some square nails, and then 2 supposed lead balls. They're approximately .33 caliber lead balls. 2 months after the find, so once they have these artifacts, they're actually featured in a local newspaper article.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, and 2 months after the article was published, Milo McLeod, he was kind of the father of the heritage program for the Bitterroot and the Lolo National Forest.
Oh, yeah.
So he discovered this news article. He discovered that the private detective had illegally excavated and removed the artifacts from lands administered by the Bitterroot National Forest.
Yeah, not supposed to do that.
No, it's a lot illegal.
That's what I was thinking, like just going out there, not telling anybody, not getting any kind of permit, and just start digging.
Well, he had talked to a volunteer who was working out at the Magruder Ranger Station, and unfortunately the volunteer did not know that excavating federal lands without a permit is illegal.
Oh.
So he wasn't prosecuted, but while the artifacts were all returned to the Bitterroot, like once you excavate a site and remove an artifact from its primary context, you've destroyed the site and our ability as archaeologists to gather priceless information.
Yeah, totally.
And in the case of a burial site or a massacre site, you're also kind of disturbing that area. And for different descendants, I mean, that is really disrespectful. and that could really upset someone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it is illegal to damage or excavate and or remove archaeological resources from federally administered lands without a permit. So this is all protected under the Archaeological Resources Protection Act, which was passed in 1979.
Oh.
So anyone who violates this law and is convicted may be fined up to $10,000 or imprisoned for 1 year, or you'd be fined and imprisoned.
So everyone out there listening, be careful with your metal detectors and
Yeah.
your shovels.
Yes.
Get some permission. Talk to some folks. And
Apply for a ARPA permit is what they're called.
ARPA.
That's for archaeologists who are looking to do excavations for research purposes. You apply for one of those. You apply for those to access collections if you're interested in doing some research. Currently, the Magruder Massacre artifacts are housed in the Bitterroot National Forest Creation Facility.
Oh.
So, yeah.
That's cool. I guess I want to touch on what you're saying about, someone just going out and digging illegally.
Right.
And, it might have been in good intentions, just trying to, put some, some curiosities that person had to rest. And
right.
totally understand. But like you're saying, like if you disturb that site, like you're saying where the balls are and where the buckle is and all these other artifacts can tell a story. And then when you pull them up, even if you're like, well, I think they were there, like it's still not exact, and everyone knows how their own memory works. The human memory is definitely flawed, so it's hard to recreate that even if you have a really good memory,
It is, and if you remove the artifacts from their primary context, we lose kind of a lot of information. So depending on how far you've dug, you've disturbed the entire sedimentary complex. So, now you could possibly distribute artifacts that were not in that particular sediment layer.
Oh.
So now our ability, and this is kind of a lot of what we see when people loot pre-contact sites, and we have projectile points. They're very frequently referred to in popular culture as arrowheads. We can use different types of projectile points to kind of date a site and use it to create kind of a chronology. But if you remove those artifacts and from that sedimentary layer, we can no longer identify kind of when these artifacts were made.
Yeah,
sometimes based on their design, we can get an idea from chronologies that have been developed. But you're taking away our ability to kind of get more information.
Yeah, and be more accurate, that's for sure. And like you're saying, kind of how deep it is in the soil is how old it could be, right? Like a little deeper and,
Right.
Yeah, because we had talked about this before about how, like, and, if I found something, it'd be, after talking to you and then my friend James, who was on just a couple weeks ago at Sula Peak, he's an archaeologist in Idaho there, and me and you had talked about, like, after I talked to him, and, if I found something, Man Gulch Fire is a popular one that I've been to a few times, from the death of all the smoke jumpers, who got killed by that fire, and, you're not really, like, for me at least, I'm not really, like, looking for something, but if I just happen to find something, like, if I did these conversations with you and James, I'd been like, say it was like a smoke jumper belt buckle from, someone who died in Man Gulch, I'd be like, oh, wow, and I'd just, like, grab it real quick and be like, check it out more, but now that I know better, I'd be like, all right, I'm going to mark this spot with my GPS, and then I'm going to go grab someone like you or James or somebody and be like, hey, check it out, this is what I found, and report it before disturbing it,
Well, and that's why I think it's so important for archaeologists and other cultural resource professionals to do a lot more public outreach, because ARPA only applies, and ARPA is the acronym we call the Archaeological Resource Protection Act, if you are knowingly disturbing a site. So, the private detective didn't realize, this was an archaeological site, and he was looting. He didn't know.
Yeah.
And he, luckily gave back the artifacts, and while we did lose the context, we did at least recover those materials. But
yeah. Have you seen those?
I have.
Is it cool?
They're very cool.
Yeah, man.
Well, I don't think they're lead balls, though. I don't think that's what they found. We did test them back in January. It was not kind of the preliminary results we got, but we'll have to do further testing.
Oh, that's interesting. See, this stuff's so interesting, especially because it's like the story doesn't end, right? Like
no, it never ends.
Yeah.
The story keeps going.
Yeah, totally. And I think, you hear it a lot these days, but like having that important, like, never never just like finish a story, especially like something in history. Like you never know what you might find that might change how you look at something. You know, like
Right.
something really small at a site. I imagine you'd be like, oh, all right, you know, like that changes the story altogether. Like whatever it might
Yeah.
be, like a tool or I guess like a dinosaur, like a different kind of skeleton or something. I don't know. Like it's out of my realm of how my brain works, but like I imagine just little things could change the whole story. So it's important to keep an open mind. I guess what I'm trying to say.
It is, and we see that a lot with historic dump sites.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we found quite a few so far on the forest. We've had some really large ones, some that have some really amazing, very interesting information.
Like you mean dump sites as in like
historic trash.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then when we talk about this, people are kind of like, oh, like it's just trash. Like I'm gonna pick it up. I'm gonna pick up this can. I'm gonna pick up this tin. Like
oh yeah.
This is terrible. Why would people just like leave this stuff on the ground? Well, it's an artifact if it's over 50 years old, so please leave it in situ. Don't pick up the cans.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we find these dump sites, we can find things like opium tins, which will tell us stories in the history of this region, in terms of the history of the Asian American community.
Oh yeah.
Where their stories may not be reflected in all historical records, and it can give us a better idea of the history of this valley, an all-inclusive history.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I imagine even like today, if you're writing a history, it's kind of who's in your social circle is kind of who you more put into your story, instead of the big picture of like some folks that like maybe in different socioeconomic status or just don't do the same things you're doing, so you don't really interact with them. So like they might not be included in the story, and they have their own story going on, but it's not involved in yours, so they don't really get as much mention in history, I imagine.
Right.
Just like you're writing a book, I guess, nowadays,
Well, and for historians, we have, even archaeologists, we have a certain amount of bias when we're, writing these reports and looking at everything. So that's an important factor that we do kind of try to talk about and acknowledge.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely good to have a bunch. Like we were talking, just like these conversations and talking with your peers, and on different things, because otherwise that bias, it creeps up on all of us. I mean, you could have the most open mind, and like next thing you know, you're overlooking something or interjecting your own bias into it, and so it's so good to have like a third party of being like, wait, what are you talking about? And you're like, this, and they're like, I don't know if I agree with that, and they'd be like, and then it gives you a chance to pause and be like, oh yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about on that one. But you never know until someone catches it. Because if you don't catch it, you probably won't. At least I won't. If it was me.
Well, and it's the same for us too. We're writing the documents.
Yeah, because I've had a little experience in like everything for me kind of more relates to fire, just 'cause I've done it for so long. But usually, even we do AARs, after action reviews, and and I always going with the most open mind I can to be like, always trying to improve and do the process better, even if you've done it a ton. And I've seen quite a few fires now in my career, because I've been doing it for a long time, and still like an AAR, I take them all serious, because I'm like, all right, like what, because you never know, you could end up like developing something like a blind spot that you didn't have before, but if you keep doing something a lot, then that blind spot could grow, and so like for me, I'm always like trying to be aware of if that's creeping up on me, and in anything, I'm not in fire anymore, but whatever I might be doing, in the future, like this podcast, I've catch myself saying like a lot, and that's been bothering me. So when I'm editing, I'm like, oh. So I'm trying to stop doing that and slow down my talk. It's just little things, like, and every day. So, kind of like with you guys and doing the research you guys are doing, and just, probably all your everyday things really in archaeology, I imagine.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah. And then, are you going to go on fires then?
Yeah. So I do have a red card, and I did kind of some resource advisor training on one of the fires this past summer here on the Bitterroot.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So for archaeology, it's a little different. We can be resource advisors. We can be resource fire line advisors. And then we can be fire archaeologists, but we're the only qualified professionals, the 0193 series, that can be fire archaeologists.
Oh, wow. I didn't know. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so other resources like biologists or hydrologists can also be resource advisors, and the ones we have on the forest here in the Bitterroot do a fantastic job, but they can't necessarily do fire archaeology.
Yeah.
So it's been really an important push since I've come on for us to kind of start to get our red cards and get kind of geared up into everything.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. On eastern Montana, fires have been on where they found like dinosaur bones and
Yeah.
a lot of historic things out in there, like wagon wheels and like really cool things. And but when I was first in fire, I was so focused on my fire career and stuff. Like I'd bump into like we call knowledgist, and I'd just like, hey, what'd you find? And they like kind of go into a little bit, and I'm like, oh, it's really cool. And then I'd have to go do whatever fire thing I was doing at the time, crew boss or squad boss or just run the saw. So like I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then I just keep moving, and then I'd forget about what I was just told. And it's like, dang, I wish I could remember that now, because when I was on one fire, we came across this dinosaur bone, and it was huge. It was so cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and there's all these little like round balls at the bottom of it, and this is near Roundup, Montana. And one of my friends had a few pictures of them and brought them to, I want to say Bozeman, because they have at MSU they have. Don't they have
I think they have a pretty robust paleontological program.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for, but I didn't know it, so I was like.
Yeah, a lot of times the big question we get, especially when we go to the elementary schools and we do public outreach, is, do you study dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Archaeologists, we don't. We mostly study kind of human cultures.
Oh, gotcha.
Kind of more from the past, but a lot of these cultures are, the precursor, and they have descendants today, so we try to keep this in mind, that these cultures are very much alive, these people are very much alive. So we're serving these communities, I guess would be the better way to phrase it.
No, and that's a really good way to phrase it too, because I think I was talking to you about the podcast Outlandish, and it's so for folks who are interested in this, I think I mentioned this before on the podcast, but it's out-land-ish, I think is how it goes. And it's one of the podcast hosts recommended it to me, and the episode she recommended was What You Might Find in Glaciers, or something along those lines. And it's really cool. I think we talked about that, where these fellows were on a sheep hunt, and they found part of a indigenous person in this glacier, and then years later they go back, and I don't want to ruin the story, but so I'm gonna stop myself. But it's a really good episode. But they were talking about, like me and you talked about the importance of them not disturbing the site, and then finding out what indigenous group was in that area, and then returning that person and giving the proper send off, to the afterlife, which is super cool and powerful and important. And your job could be part of that too, depending on what you find, right?
So for archaeologists that are working in kind of the federal system, you are responsible for compliance actions under the law. So one of the federal historic preservation laws we operate under is the Native American Graves Protection Repatriation Act of 1990.
Oh, wow, that's kind of recent.
Yeah, it's really recent, but there's two parts to this law. So if we come across human remains that we believe to be indigenous remains during a project undertaking, we stop the project and we begin the repatriation process, working with the communities, the tribal communities, the descendant communities. The other portion of the law is repatriating human remains that have been collected in the past. So archaeologists back in the 20s and the 30s, it's a very different time. And this particular focus wasn't necessarily, it was more museum based, like what can we get from the ground to compete with what they're finding in Egypt and in Europe, and to kind of like compete with the cool factor, and we're cool too, we've got all this history.
Yeah, because mummies,
Right, but I mean that's not the right way to go about it. So now we do have not here on the Bitterroot. On the Bitterroot, everything has been repatriated. We're in complete compliance with NAGPRA.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, which is fabulous. But unfortunately, that's not the case on every unit, on every agency, and it's an unfunded mandate. But there are grant opportunities. So definitely apply for those.
Yeah.
If you find yourself in that position. But it is really important
Yeah, definitely.
If you do come across human remains, to leave them in situ and to notify the local authorities. If you're on Park Service lands, call the Park Service. If you're on forest lands, call the Forest Service. Get in touch with whoever is responsible, and they'll get it to the right people.
Yeah, totally. Because in my eyes, it seems, at least for, part of the importance for me is, I think also because somehow my great grandparents got separated, or great grandma got separated from the Nez Perce tribe. So I don't know exactly where we got disconnected. So I don't know my history too much, my descendants that much. So I look at it through those eyes, I guess. And like you're talking about, like finding something or having something that the tribe maybe doesn't even know about because it got found or whatever.
Right.
And so either got found in recent times or in the past, and then bringing it back to the tribe and kind of maybe connect some dots, like, oh wow, that was one of our people ancestors were in this area, huh? Like we maybe they heard rumor that like the Nez Perce tribe had gone all the way out to wherever, but didn't maybe have the proof. And then if you found some human remains in, I don't know, southern Idaho or something, I don't know, like it's a bad example, but something to help connect dots that maybe was more just a rumor of how the tribe interacted or where they traveled, or all those kind of things.
Right. And also, I mean, a lot of tribes were removed to reservations and removed from their traditional homelands.
Yeah.
So these burial sites, they very much might know where they are, and they don't want to share it because back in the 20s and 30s, people were digging up their ancestors, sticking them in a glass case and being like, look.
Oh wow, that'd be so weird.
It's really it's strange, and it can be difficult, and I'm sure for descendants it's a horrible thought and experience, and it's very emotional when you go through that repatriation process. And
and we're all I think if you trace back human existence long enough, we all tribal folks, we all come from some tribe, and maybe the same tribe way back, and so there's all those ceremonies. I think anyone who kind of like understand, like hears it, like, oh, like at first you'd be like, oh, I don't know, I mean, it's historic and it's kind of nice that everyone can like see display, but then you're like, oh yeah, wait a minute, that there's a ceremony for that person, and they got put to rest. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, someone's mother, grandmother, child, whatever, So having a little bit more of the human factor, and putting your heart into it a little bit more instead of just something cool to look at.
Putting the humanity back in the humanities.
Yeah.
I'm on a roll today.
You are, yeah. You're nailing it. That's awesome. I was gonna ask how. So I mean, you seem like you're doing like you're natural at this, like first podcast, right?
No, I'm not natural at this, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, you're doing really good.
I'm learning. So.
Yeah. Well, what I found too is like with most folks, I mean, we're about, how long do you think we're in right now? Wait, don't check your watch. So how long do you think we're in? I guess you checked.
Probably an hour.
Yeah, we're about a little over an hour. Because most people like about a half hour. Usually flies by, but about a half hour in, people kind of get settled into it, because it's a lot of like talking into a mic, hearing headphones and the camera, and but I mean, you seem to settle right into it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're doing great. So I appreciate you being on.
Well, thanks. I appreciate the invite, and thank you for letting me talk your ear off about heritage.
Yeah, totally. I wasn't gonna kick you out the door yet, unless you got to be somewhere. You got to be somewhere.
No, I've got time.
All right, because a little more I want to talk about too, because you'd mentioned something about Rambo. Do you have any information on that, or?
I need to do some more research on Rambo. So, I mean, this is a good example, though. I mean, we do have some historic records, and it's very one-sided, kind of what occurred at Rambo in that particular murder. So I do want to do some more research to make sure that I've got the whole story, and I'm not just, spreading what was being spread in newspapers in 1909.
Oh, wow. 1909. Holy crap. Was that when it occurred?
No, it was earlier, but that's one of the newspaper articles we have on it. It's about that date. So.
Wow. Yeah, that's an old one, too, then, hey.
But that is why Rambo Mountain is named Rambo Mountain.
Oh, it's from the murder, hey.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I was talking to Kevin Neihart about it a little bit, and I guess his wife grew up on the ranch, and so...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's a grave site that she had been looking for and was never able to really find it, because I guess one of the owners of the ranch way back when was tired of visitors or something, so she removed the cross or headstone, or whatever might have been the marker, and Yeah, so make it a little more difficult on folks.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we do have like locations for some stuff, not on private land, and I think that would be on the private land, so we probably don't have that.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, it might be a different story. And
Yeah.
man, that's what's crazy about history too.
It might be next year's Halloween podcast.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah. And then, talking to Jake, there's like a few disappearances that he was telling me about. He's like,
yeah.
So yeah, we were talking about going to the sheriff's office, and so like I said for the next podcast, and even if it's after Halloween, it's still it's just interesting. So we'll have to get together on that one too.
Yeah, that would be great. And I think it is really important, like when you're going out and enjoying, the forest and recreating, to be responsible and, be safe. I mean, unfortunately, things do happen. And some of this forest is really remote. It's really difficult to get to. I mean, we have the Selway Bitterroot Wilderness and the parts of the Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness. I mean...
Yeah, name says it all over there.
Right.
River of No Return.
Yeah, I mean, be really careful when you're recreating and be responsible and, check in with people. I don't know what happened to the individuals who went missing. I'm sure something very terrible happened.
Yeah, because they wouldn't just wander on their own, especially because of the past. And one of the stories is like a gal who was a cook who disappeared and knew the area like better than anyone, and never did find any sign of her. So no clue on what happened to her. And I mean, typically, just in my experience, any animal attack, there's gonna be a sign, of struggle, something, and. Because an animal doesn't really care if it leaves your shoe behind,
Well, no, and sometimes, like, we're predators, and we're going into a forested area that oftentimes is very thick with vegetation. Yeah. So even with, like, grizzly bears and black bears, I mean, we're encroaching kind of on their territory, too, and we don't have the same sense of smell as they do, and they don't realize that. Yeah. So when you come across these animals, I mean, they think you've, purposely gone into this area to like get their food or take their cubs, and I mean, you're taking their spot. They're like, what are you doing here? Like, this is my turf. So
absolutely. And that has crossed my mind a few times, especially being on fires. There's a fire jumped in Idaho, kind of near Avery, Idaho, I think a little north, and talking to the DO, he's like, how's it look up there? I was like, oh, it's not too bad. And we're starting to get a good handle on things and getting the fire wrapped. And he's like, oh, good, because I was a little worried about that country. And I was like, oh, yeah. And he's like, yeah, it hasn't seen fire since 1910. So I was like, oh, man, all right. So that was it's a pretty heavy fuel. And where we were at was kind of exposed and a little more hot. So, like, the vegetation hadn't grown up as much. But where we had to hike out was more of a wetter area of the forest and low, kind of more low elevation. Man, your words are coming together. My words are falling apart. But I had like these game trails that I was like army crawling to get out of, and it was like a thicket, like super thick, and I had my hard hat off, so one I could see, and it's loud if things are hitting you in the head. So I just had a fiber tape to my pack, and I heard it get ripped off my pack, and I turned around and it was gone. So like I took my pack off, left it on the trail so I could find my pack again, and like went around on my hands and knees looking for it, and I never did find my hard hat. That's how thick this country was. Yeah, it's still up there somewhere. So never did find the hard hat, and I was like, all right. So I put my pack back on, and I could kind of smell like a wallow, and we'd heard that there was, or we'd seen a younger bear that was hanging around, kind of just checking on us while we're fighting the fire. Yeah. And but along those lines is like, I'm breathing heavy because I'm, struggling to get through this, I mean,
it's thick vegetation.
Yeah.
I mean, this is dense stuff.
Yeah, totally. And I've been on fire for a few days and sweating, so I'm probably got a pretty good smell going, pretty ripe, So it's like, and like you said, bears got a crazy good sense of smell, and then their hearing's great, and I'm just mouth breathing my way out of these thick areas. So that, like, there's not too many times on fire where I was a little concerned about a bear, but on that one I was like, man, I have my easy target here,
For us, I mean, we're serving in these extremely thick and dense vegetated areas, so we've come across quite a few, especially last field season.
Oh, geez.
Just black bears so far, so fingers crossed there.
Yeah, holy cow. But the news keeps saying that the grizzly bear population's growing, so kind of be aware there.
Yeah, I mean, be bear aware.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good public service message too, just about being safe in the woods and having a plan, having supplies, communication, like you were kind of hinting at earlier about, you go anywhere in those areas like the, Bitterroot, the Selway, Frank Church, all these wilderness areas, anything in the West Fork. You're out there on like an island, the Magruder corridor.
Yeah, there's no cell service.
No cell phone service, yeah.
For the most part, no.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have Verizon, sometimes you can pick up a spot. But, I mean, once you hit that Magruder corridor, I mean, no service.
Yeah, just on the other side of the Nez Pass, it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, we use
InReach
devices, yeah. Well, we should.
Yeah. I know I don't carry one in my personal. And when we're jumping fires, we typically have a satellite phone if we're going to be in somewhere there's not, and radios, so it makes it easy. But yeah.
Well, the radios don't always work out in the wilderness because you have a very limited amount of kind of receivers that you're trying to hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it can be touch and go. I mean, we had that experience when we were out in the Magruder corridor, and we weren't even out in the wilderness. We were just driving. So.
Yeah. Oh, really? And and if you're using the truck radio.
Yeah.
So it's got a little more powerful signal than like a handheld if you're hiking, and then that's why I've been kind of petitioning. Part of the podcast is like for to keep lookouts, and no one's really trying to get rid of them, but I just like want to kind of make sure they stick around because a huge part of that is I've been on fires where you couldn't hit a repeater, like you said, so the radio's worthless, but I was able to hit a lookout, and the lookout was able to relay everything from the DO or the deputy or duty officer. So the duty officer is the one who's in charge, making all decisions about what they want to do with the fire, and then they relay it to me, and then I make it happen, as the incident commander. So they'd be relaying the duty officer's direction with the fire, and then relaying back the progress from what I was saying, and then weather as well, and just having our back on that. So definitely important to have lookouts. So
it is.
A few of those dead spots probably used to have lookouts, so that's unfortunate.
Maybe.
There used to be a ton of them. I mean, you saw the map,
Yeah, I mean, they used to be all over the place. Same with ranger stations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I think it was Reen was telling me that Magruder had like some of the best food. Like, yeah, even like when it was still going not too long ago. He said like if you had to make a trip with the West Fork, you planned your lunch around being at the Magruder Ranger Station.
Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah, because
I've seen photos.
Oh really?
Yeah, I mean they've got an elaborate spread in some of these historic photos, and
so cool.
Looks amazing.
Yeah.
I look at it, and then usually we look at these photos on what we call Fast Food Fridays, and we go to like A&W or something as a crew for lunch.
Oh hey, bonding though.
Yeah.
That's cool though. I mean,
because we get hungry by looking at how great the spread is that they're putting out at Magruder. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, totally. And Reen said one of the guys he talked to went and had lunch, and then the cook gave him a to-go bag because he was going to be out for the rest of the night or something.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I made him like a sack lunch to go, and so it was just incredible. Man.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Me too. Yeah, and when I went to go jump at Winthrop, North Cascade Smoke River Base. The kitchen's still there, and we were using it as the jumpers, and I guess they were saying not too long ago when they'd have a big fire in the area, they bring in the old cooks that used to work it full time, and they'd cook for the big fires and stuff, and I guess those cooks were amazing as well.
Oh, I've heard good stories.
Yeah, the Forest Service, they had it going on when it came to that stuff. It's a shame that times change, just not as needed anymore, but
yeah.
It would have been cool to experience it just once, like for even like a week,
Yeah. They actually used to do baseball games out at Magruder in the 60s.
Really?
And one of the things we've really been talking about doing is starting that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
I think that would be fun. Like out in the horse pasture, just a little baseball game.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Maybe like split the forest in half, like north versus south baseball game or something.
Oh, I think we have to, yeah.
Yeah.
But where does the supervisor's office go? Because we're in the middle.
Yeah. I don't know.
Are we like the referees, or does the winning district team play us?
Oh, that'd be good, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe like a tournament then. Yeah.
Or do we go to the district teams and, spread out?
Yeah, if you're on the north side of the office, you go north. If you're on the south side, you go south.
Exactly.
It could be. Yeah, it depends on who's got the most talent. Trying to think. I think we might, we'd be south, I guess, on our side of the office. So.
Yeah, so we'd be with West Fork.
Yeah, I feel like we got pretty good odds there. Yeah. Darby Sewell's got some pretty good athletes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it'd
They've
be
got
all
a
right.
good team.
Yeah, Stevensville's got some pretty good athletes too. So I think it'd be a good match.
I think it would be fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. Do you know what year did the Magruder? So it used to be a ranger station, right?
Yeah, so was the Ranger Station.
When did it? Do you know when it stopped being like fully functional?
1973 is what comes to mind, but don't quote me.
Well, people can look it up. Yeah. I was just kind of wanting
They changed
ballpark.
it to a workstation in the 70s, around 73.
Oh, gosh, I probably got rid of the cook and everything else then.
Yeah, well, I mean, at that time, they were kind of paring down on administrative structures, kind of the footprint. I mean, you see it with the number of ranger stations and lookouts that we had on the forest. I mean, they significantly diminish. Even we had some that were kind of like temporary lookouts, temporary ranger stations, guard stations. I mean, they were part of an era. I mean, cars didn't go that far. You were using horses, depending on the time that you were kind of hanging out in the Bitterroot.
Yeah, phones.
So,
Everything was on like a hard line, and those were unreliable because a windstorm or something came and broke the wires. So.
Right. I mean, certain portions of this forest were much more remote than they might be now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So you needed all those lookouts and ranger stations and guard stations to kind of relay messages, but we also were kind of thinking about it the other day too, as we are finding the ruins of some of these ranger stations and these lookouts. You know, if you had a map and it was saying, oh, this is where, Black Bear Ranger Station is, and you're in trouble, so you go there because it's the closest one, and then there's nothing there because we were kind of finding that sometimes they would just put a ranger station on a map and maybe they didn't necessarily get to constructing it. Or, something happened and they ended up moving it from, Black Bear Point to Sula.
Yeah, wherever made more sense, probably.
Right.
Yeah, and didn't change the map.
Building. Yeah, they didn't change the map.
Oh, I could see it too, because especially if you're like looking at a map and just like in a planning meeting, and you're like, all right, so here's the plan, and that could be maybe the Forest Super's plan, and then he or she retires, and then it's like that plan retires with them,
right.
And then the next person comes in and maybe they see like technology change, like you said, like better cars or whatever, so like, well, we don't need as many, so
right.
But the map, takes a while probably to catch up, and
I mean it's caught up now, so it should be okay.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed, it should be fine. I've looked at it.
Yeah,
it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we don't have anything on the map. Because like I was gonna say, I think all the lookouts are on the maps, even the ones that are rentals. But I was gonna say like maybe some are missing, but I think they're all on there. Maybe not.
They should all be on there.
Yeah, I think
because even the rental ones, they're kind of reserved for emergency. So if something does happen, we can pull them back in for administrative use.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. I was talking to Ellie just yesterday about Deer Mountain, which Deer Mountain's 100 years old this year. Did you know?
Yeah,
Isn't
it's
Cool?
exciting.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, not the original structure, because I think Ellie said the one she's in right now was built in the 60s, but the original, the point of being a lookout has been in continuous service since 1923. So
yeah,
that's pretty cool. And said originally was like, I wish I could have a picture because I'd like to see how you say it, because I've heard it a couple different ways. I always call them cupolas. Do you say cupola, or would you say?
Cupola.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Ellie and Reen call it a different. It's spelled the same, I think. Like it's potato, but it's like I'm trying to think how they say it, but they say it a little different. So I was kind of curious to see how you might say it. But so originally it was like a cupola, and then I think it became an L4, and now it's an R6. So
oh wow.
Yeah, I think just 3 different iterations, but it's cool to see the development.
Yeah, it is.
And man, that is a spot. Have you been up to Deer Mountain yet?
Not yet.
Holy cow! Yeah, if you can make it up there this year, it'd be definitely worth it, because it's beautiful. You can drive right to it, and it's the vantage point is amazing. Like like I've seen it on a map, and I'm like, oh, it looks like a good spot. But then you go up there, and you can see like down to the French Basin. I mean, almost to Sula. If Sula Peak was up a little higher, you could see Sula Peak, and you could see Medicine Point, you could see Gird and Willow, and down into Hamilton and Darby, you can see all the way to Lolo.
Oh wow!
You can see up the West Fork, and Lake Como. You can see Lake Como.
It's a good view.
It's an amazing view, and you're like really close to the Bitterroot, so it's super cool.
We're actually going up to Medicine Point, I think maybe next week, and also McCart.
Oh, cool! So. You guys going Wednesday?
We're going to McCart on Tuesday. I don't know when we're going to Medicine Point yet. Sometimes we have to pick days because we have other things going on.
Oh, gotcha. Because we're closing it on Wednesday, so.
Okay.
Yeah, Wednesday might be a good day, is what I'm saying.
Maybe, yeah.
Because then you guys, if you guys can work in your schedule, because It'd just be kind of cool to see it when it's open.
Yeah,
You know,
it would be.
before we turn into a little box.
Yeah.
It's funny. One of my friends who's a lookout. We just friends on Instagram, but she manned let's see, it was like Black Butte or Bear Point or something like that. Whatever. Some lookout. Man, my recall is real bad tonight.
That's
But
great.
yeah, sure. So she's up there at Bear Point or something. Lookout, and she just closed it down, and she's like, "Now it's just a little box on top of the hill." And it's funny
Aw.
because it goes from like this cool little structure to this little, encapsulated box,
Yeah.
protected from the weather.
Oh, and I remember that one. We went up there last year. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Wait, which one?
Bear Point.
Bear Point? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, this one's in the Bob Marshall. That's something else. I'm getting confused with Bear Point.
Oh, okay.
But you went to Bear Point, the one that
Yeah.
essentially
Bear
picture?
Cone. Bear Cone.
Oh, you went to Bear Cone.
And we went to Black Bear Point.
Oh, cool.
Black Bear Point is just their remains, though, at this point.
Was there nothing there, really?
There's some remainders of, like, the tent platform poles.
Oh, really?
And then the Taos Slope. And then there's, like, a ton of historic artifacts around there.
Oh, cool.
And it's illegal to pick them up
Yes,
and
so
take
don't
them,
do it.
so
Yeah.
don't do it.
Please don't do it.
And we did take a lot of photos, so we did see everything there. And if something is missing, we will know.
Yeah, we'll find out.
We will.
Yeah. Man, that's cool. Yeah, that's why I'm getting confused, because me and you were talking about, was it Black Bear Point last week?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Reen had an amazing historic photo that we didn't have in our files. So.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah.
So lucky to have Reen.
Yeah, he's a great resource.
He is, yeah, and his memory's incredible. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
how. I mean, I know he takes really good notes and journals and stuff, but I mean, like, it's really impressive.
It
Like,
is.
the first podcast, I want to say, like, we went for 5 hours, and I don't think he even looked at his notes. But, jeez, man, I don't know how you're... And I mean, he's reaching back into, like, his college days and high school days, and
Wow.
we were talking about his time in Hawaii.
Right.
It was impressive. But then, you went to Bear Cone as well, though? Bear Cone Lookout?
Yeah, we did. Last summer we were working in the West Fork.
Oh, cool.
So-
Is that R6, or what style is that, do you know?
I think it's an R6.
I think so, too, from the picture I'm remembering.
Yeah.
I've never been to that one.
Yeah, it's not an L4. It's more of like the box kind of.
Yeah, I think it's R6.
Yeah.
I'm still, like, learning, so I'm just going
Me
to claim
too.
R6. But
It's
I
an
don't-
R6. We've decided.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It's R6. You
It's
heard,
stamped.
you heard it here.
Yeah, you heard it here first, people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like the R6. It's a little more room. I mean, L4 is
Yeah.
kind of cool because it's historic, but man, when you like spend a little time in both of them, you really appreciate the room in the R6. I think
Yeah, the L4s are kind of small.
they are. Yeah, they're cool because the shutters are sticking out and
Yeah.
everything. But yeah, the R6 are just a little more people friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But have you been up to Boulder Point?
No, have you? Was it awesome?
It's really cool, but that hike is pretty killer.
That's
It's
what I heard.
really steep. And like before we went, we had been told by Milo, who I mentioned in the Magruder story,
Yeah.
and his wife Janine, who is an amazing archaeologist and historian herself.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Damn.
so they actually worked on the Lookout nominations. I think Janine did under contract for the region.
Oh, wow.
And so they had gone up to Boulder Point, and we had heard that it was their least favorite lookout to visit.
Oh.
I mean, they're very fit, and so I was scared because I am not.
Well, you look fit.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, kind of
It's
same
at the
way.
end of the field season, so it's easier.
Yeah. No, I know. Like for me too. Like I still look like I fight fire, but if I try to fight fire right now, oh man, I need an ambulance. Like I definitely look like I'm in better shape than I am. Like I played hockey the other day, and I was sore for a week, and
Yeah.
it wasn't like I was going out there and really crushing it. I was just barely staying on my skates. So,
Are you
man.
in like a league?
Yeah, there's an
Okay.
adult like beer league in Missoula, and
Oh, very cool.
yeah, they do fall, winter, and spring. And the fall and spring season's a little shorter, but it's kind of fun because a little more laid back. And the winter is a little more competitive, and more
Yeah.
people show up, and it's a little bigger league. And it goes like from like November till what's it, like end of February or March maybe. Like, it's really long. It's cool because you get a lot of hockey in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you play hockey?
Well, no. And my dad is going to disown me if he hears me ask this, but do you play like a specific position in hockey?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've been kind of gravitating more towards center because center
Okay.
is a lot of it's the person who takes the face-offs, and it's just in my experience, I guess, a lot of skating. So you're kind of playing offense and defense.
Okay.
And
right.
So I kind of like that just because I get a really good workout in, and then play wing and right wing, left wing. I'm hoping I'm messing this up now, overthinking it. But those are like the 4 positions. Then you have your just typical defense, like left and right defense. Then your goalie.
Oh, okay.
So 5 folks on the ice all the times. Counting the goalie would be 6. So yeah, it's really fun. So if you ever have interest, like the league in Missoula is really cool. And
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, have you skated at all? Or?
A little bit. My dad's from Boston, so that's why I made that comment, because he's a Bruins fan.
Oh, yeah.
Watches hockey all the time.
Oh,
sometimes
cool.
I try to watch the games, but then I fall asleep.
Yeah.
Unless they're really rowdy, and then you kind of stay awake. I feel like going in person, it would be more fun, like actually playing.
Yeah, it definitely is, yeah. And then once you start playing, you kind of start understanding it more. But if you're, especially the early season stuff, it's kind of like football. Like, it's not as exciting, but then the playoffs, like, especially in hockey, it gets really intense, and it's really good watching. And then, like, if you start playing hockey, you'll start to have more interest in even, like, the slower kind of preseason games, too, or early season games. 'Cause they play a ton of games.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah, the beginning of the season for NHL could be a little slower, but I'm just, like, trying to, like, steal tips and moves from those guys. So, like, even the early games, I'm, like, glued to the TV if I get a chance to.
Taking notes.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I always have a plan, and then it's totally gone once I hit the ice because I just don't have the skill like those guys do. But I like to pretend, at least while I'm watching.
Well, I mean, you can learn the skills, too.
Yeah.
Like, watching them, and then you can replicate it.
Totally, yeah. Like, there's a kind of a famous story about this fellow who was a golfer who got injured, and while he was laid up, he was playing all the holes from the whole PGA Tour in his head. Like, he'd go through a full round of golf at each of the stops on the tour. And I'm probably butchering this, but it's going to be generally true to the story. But anyways, he was laid up playing the rounds of golf. So then when he came in, when he was able to get back on the PGA Tour and play pro golf again, he hadn't really lost anything because he'd been going through the motions in his head and going through every bit of the golf. Like, I think even adjusting for like a bad drive or something, and then having to get himself out of the rough or whatever it might be.
He was ready.
Yeah, so there's a lot to that mental game for sure.
Yeah.
And then, like, staying positive and stuff. Yeah. Mess with my mic a lot, so it feels like it's just hard to get it just right. One of these days I'll stop messing with it, maybe.
No, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I try to adjust my posture and keep my back from getting seized up on me.
Yeah.
But, well, shoot, we got about an hour and a half, and we'll let you go. Let's. Do we miss anything? Was there anything else you wanted to mention?
I think we covered a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we can always come back and talk about. I mean, there's like a plethora of things to talk about.
Absolutely.
What do you think we'll be talking on October?
Yeah.
16th?
Is that the 16th? Yeah, I was going to say.
I think it's the 16th. Because, like, I'm going to be gone for a while because I'm actually going to Lolo National Forest that first week in October because I'm going to be helping. They're repairing the roof at Morgan Case, which this is a fun story about historic items that someone who's not an archaeologist might think is trash.
Oh, yeah.
But when they were restoring the Morgan Case homestead, they actually found a collection of artifacts kind of in the door jamb.
Oh.
And they ended up being hoodoo artifacts. And so hoodoo is a kind of like a cultural practice or religious practice by people in West African culture. And this is the furthest example found in the north of the western United States, like the furthest western north example.
That is nuts.
Of hoodoo magic practice. And
that is
wild.
And,
I mean, Morgan Case is actually named for Annie Morgan, who was a formerly enslaved person who ended up coming out west, and she cooked for Custer, and then she ended up meeting her partner Joseph Case, and they started this homestead.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, she's a really fascinating and incredible person to talk about, and also like the archaeology and history of magic too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that because we talked about PBS earlier, but like the PBS special on like voodoo was like really cool. I checked out a long time ago because like the voodoo always kind of had like the dark magic and stuff, and then you get on that PBS especially when that talk to like practitioners and people who are like historically have kept voodoo intact, and it's way more of a positive spin. It's not like all this dark magic like the movies kind of make it out to be. It's kind of fun that way. Like like there's a Princess and the Frog cartoon where there's like this voodoo person, and then there's two different sides of the voodoo. There's like the dark magic one, and then there's like the light magic gal, like who lives in the swamp, who's like more the positive side of voodoo, which I think is probably accurate-ish, like the dark and light side of things,
Yeah.
So, but I had no idea about hoodoo, because when you said that, it made me think about Hoodoo Lake, which is
Yeah.
like, I wonder how that. Do you know anything about Hoodoo Lake?
Well, I was actually just looking at that today
Oh,
because
really?
I found this. So we're actually presenting on terracing.
Oh.
Not to get on to another very interesting topic of cultural resources that we have on this forest, but we have terracing.
Yeah.
So we're actually presenting on terracing, and specifically that kind of Bitterroot controversy that occurred in the 70s.
Oh.
Yeah. At the Montana Historical Society annual conference in Helena, September 27th, that week.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. I kind of want to pull on that thread, but I figured like that's probably another podcast in itself.
Yeah.
You think? Yeah.
I think maybe, but I was looking at Hoodoo Lake because we're putting together a presentation. So I've got historic photographs, and we're kind of talking about the different forest management practices and the different decades and like periods of time and how it changes and why like terracing is so drastic when it happens.
Yeah, because I don't, I've seen it, of course, like especially anyone in the Forest Service is aware, like I'm vaguely, like not vaguely, but I'm like, I've seen it, but I'm don't know why or
It's got a bad rap.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. So like, yeah, don't know much about it, but I just know
I know.
Exists,
I don't know everything, but I know a fair amount right now.
Yeah.
From the presentation, but there are a lot of people who live in the valley that were actually involved in the terracing, and I mean they're fantastic to speak to because they have a plethora of knowledge to share.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's important. Like you can get the boots in the ground knowledge and why and what they're doing. That goes a long way for sure.
Yeah.
Dang, yeah, you're doing some important work. That the Hoodoo Lake thing, and I found out recently about it because I had kind of rescued a old poster, like said something Ranger. Yeah, it's in the little cubicle office area. Like I'll have to show you, but someone taped a picture of like an old black and white photo to it, and I didn't like mess with it until I was actually like moved in my new spot there, my new office there, and so like once I finally got it hung, then I pulled the picture off and looked at it. I was like, I think it's called Bill Bell is the name, and he was a ranger.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a photo of him out at Hoodoo Lake.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I tracked that down. Wait, so how do you know about this? Just because you're looking up Hoodoo Lake, or?
No, we have an archive. So in our curation facility, we've got artifacts and we've got archives, and within our archive collection is a series of photographs. Has been taken, historic photographs, and one of them was his Bell and his adventures at Hoodoo Lake. And then there's another of a young fisherman who was fishing out there. And
oh, really?
Yeah.
Geez, that's cool.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's the same photo that I have.
It might be. We can look.
Yeah, we'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
I was going to try to describe it to you, but I would not do very well because I haven't had it up very long, and I didn't really look at it that close. I just kind of flipped it over, looked at the description, then stuck it back to the Ranger poster I have. And but it was wild because when I looked up the history of Bill Bell, it came up with Elk Summit Ranger District, and that I think I want to say he's the reason why there was a log mill there for a minute there, and that was in the creek that was fed by Hoodoo Lake, and there were only like a couple months of the year they could use it. And I found a picture of the old mill, and that was really cool, and they used it to build all the structures around there. Yeah, really interesting stuff.
It is.
And do you know, did they bring the mill in from Hamilton? Because that's what it kind of sounded like. Like they brought it in through Blodgett?
Yeah, I think they brought parts of it and then reconstructed it.
Yeah, there at Elk Summit. Yeah, really cool. And I guess there's not anything of it left, really. But I still want to get back there and check it out and just see the spot where it was.
Yeah, I mean, we should plan to go out and survey next summer. Because we've kind of entered our reporting phase. So we're no longer doing field stuff for the most part, unless we have like something we have to go look at.
Yeah, so like if something, like say like a fire person or trail or whoever, random public like tripped over something that was significant history, historic significance. Would that be like stop what you're doing, go out and investigate and check it out, or?
It depends. I mean, it depends on what it is. So we don't necessarily like shut projects down just because like somebody tripped over a can. But
Yeah.
if it's like a Clovis point, I'd probably like, what? Like, I'll be there in 5.
I gotcha. Yeah, 'cause like my brain goes like Jurassic Park. Like, if they found like something worth, like you said, like Clovis. You'd be
Well,
like, oh.
something that is really rare for us to find. We'll be like running out there.
Yeah.
But and not to say that the can's not important, because the can is important. But we do have quite a few examples of a lot of these types of cans that we have in the forest from like the 50s and the 60s and 70s.
Yeah. I can imagine, especially from like all the logging days and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing all the logging litter out there.
Well, there's tons.
Yeah, tons of chokers and stuff. Like so many fires I've been on, you trip over a choker in the woods.
Like, oh, not another one.
Oh yeah. Because the first one I found like this is cool, and I like
like
trying to figure out what it was at first, and then everyone who's been around, especially the Bitterroot and Lolo areas, like yeah, they're all over. And I was like, nah, this is the first one I found. They can't be that common. And then the more I fought fire around this area, the more I found, and I was like, oh, gotcha. Because that just kind of was like part of the what do you call it, like your loss, like one of the like assumed losses is choker cables, I guess, like they weren't that expensive compared to like what the worth was of the choker or something. I'm explaining this wrong, but so a lot of them got left behind. If they broke, they just grabbed a new one and just kind of left it lay, and or if they got lost, then moved on, and wasn't like a big concern, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
No, they just replaced it.
Yeah, but that Hoodoo Lake though, crazy. Like I didn't know anything about this hoodoo magic. Yeah, I mean, I guess like in movies and cartoons or something, they've kind of like referenced like something being like kind of like Erie being like hoodoo or something, like some kind of magical thing.
Well,
so.
and hoodoo is kind of more of like a healing form too. What Annie Morgan at least was practicing was a healing form. So the artifacts that they found on the Lolo in the Morgan Case homestead just point to the fact that she was kind of practicing the healing version of hoodoo, because her partner had been injured during the Civil War and she'd helped to heal him.
Wow, that is so cool.
It's really cool.
Man, yeah, it's really cool. Especially like having that positive like aspect of it too. Like that's super cool. I mean, all of it. I mean, even if I guess it was dark magic, it'd be like still intriguing to me. But like, it's super cool that she was like practicing, to help her partner out and heal him.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things where you hear the story and like, man, I wish I could have met this lady. She sounds really interesting,
Yeah, I mean, she was a really fascinating person. So there have been some more in-depth research that's been done to her, or not done to her, but done about her. When they were, I think, listing Morgan Case in the National Register. So that nomination form has a lot of information.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really cool. Is she in any books, or are there books written about her or anything?
There are a few that have been written about her. I can kind of give you some titles if you're interested in reading more about her. She was also inducted into the Cowboy Hall of Fame.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So did she like do rodeo or?
I don't think she did rodeo. I think because she was a homesteader.
Oh, like that kind of cowboy.
Yeah.
Like the original cowboy.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, for sure. Not just the sport. There's a sport.
Yeah.
I mean, sport's tough as heck too. But like, yeah, nothing against them at all.
No.
But yeah, the original cowboy, like that's some real tough stuff. And some people still do it. Like my brother helped out with a branding not too long ago, where they're still using horses and roping, and still like not using the squeeze chute to brand. So yeah, kind of cool to get some of that traditional stuff in.
Yeah.
Tough people. Holy cow.
It's tough.
Yeah, man. I don't know if I would have survived. I feel so soft now. Like back when I was like smoke jumping and stuff, I was like, oh yeah, whatever, another just day's work, and thought I'm old and like not as active, Well,
it's different because we're used to kind of our own comforts, and we have our own challenges today versus back then.
Yeah, totally. I think it's more of a mental battle than it was back then. I mean, there was stuff to be like worried about, but it was more like, you had these things to get done, and it wasn't as much as like the social medias and all this other outside static. You had your get your firewood, gather your food, water, your house, have your shelter, and get those things squared away, and then income later on when that kind of more mattered in history, I guess. But yeah, a little more simple times, I guess.
Well, I mean, you still had like societal pressures. It just wasn't on your phone.
In your face. Yeah.
Like, maybe it was like in your face, but like you go home and maybe it wasn't as bad.
Like your in-laws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe like not just your in-laws, but like
Neighbors and stuff. Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's probably always existed.
Yeah.
Someone's grass is greener kind of deal. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Different
Actually, I
times.
don't even use social media.
You don't use it?
No.
No, I didn't until I started this. I did not mess with it because it's just a distraction. Like I don't really watch TV. Like we were talking hockey earlier, unless it's like the playoffs and something I'm really interested in. Like even I guess it'd have to be the team I'm rooting for, like the Hawks, the Blackhawks. Like otherwise, I'd probably won't really pay attention because like you lose like 3 hours of your day. Just staring at a screen watching a sport. So like it's hard for me to allocate that much time towards TV.
Yeah.
Because I'd rather be doing anything else, like tinkering on this thing or, wrestling around with the family or whatever it might be, So, yeah, the distraction. So that's why I was keeping away from having social media.
Yeah.
I'm surprised, like, you're younger not having any social media.
Well, I have social media. I just, like, I don't know how you say it. I didn't delete it, but I just, like, put it on pause after college.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I mean, once they left college and there's, like, doing professional stuff, I mean, I'm not going to post, like, when we're out on a survey on my Instagram. Like, just did a 12-mile hike into Big Creek.
Yeah, but some people might be interested in that. I was more picturing you in the can. Just like selfie.
Maybe. But it is also kind of a concern because you can pull like a geotag from a photo.
Oh.
And like some people, like they are just genuinely interested, and that's why it's so important to like go and do podcasts and do a lot of the public outreach activities that we're doing even right now.
Yeah.
But there are some people that have like kind of, I guess like a negative or nefarious approach.
As far as, yeah.
And they will go and like loot. And there's a huge issue, especially with rock art sites, of people graffitiing, destroying these very sacred spots and archaeological sites. And then they post a photo on Instagram and tag their handle.
Yeah. Not good. Not smart.
Yeah.
That's a bad deal. I kind of the same drift from social media too. Like in college and stuff, like Facebook was, especially me being older, like Facebook was huge. And it was how you kept in contact with people and, like figured out like what all your friends and family were doing. And then, like you said, like after college though, like I got busy doing career and started smoke shopping not long after I got my bachelor's degree. So I was too busy dealing with that stuff. And then I didn't want it to impact any kind of hiring either, of some dumb college photo that I didn't think about or forgot about. And, somebody like, we don't want to hire this guy, So that's when I got rid of it. And then had no plans on getting it back until I started doing this and, having people like you on, who have like all this awesome information.
Well,
so
thank you.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate having you and then being able to help get, like you said, all this information out and then also just a little education too, you find something, don't disturb it, get a hold of somebody who knows more about it, like, talk to your local, like I said, park, ranger station, whatever.
Yeah, like reach out to whoever is, the authority there. They'll get the information to the right person.
Yeah.
Also for some archaeologists, like some local conferences you can go to and kind of interact with other professionals. If you're really, really interested in like volunteering, some states have something called like a site stewardship program.
Oh, cool.
And sometimes that's like a separate deal or sometimes it's intertwined with the State Historic Preservation Office. It just depends on where you're at.
Yeah.
And you can actually apply to be a volunteer site steward, which means you go out to the archaeological site and you kind of just monitor it and you can kind of interact with other members of the public. And just make sure, like, again, like, it might be a rock art site, and just make sure nobody's, like, running their Instagram handle on, over hundreds of thousands of years of history and ruining it.
Oh, what a bad deal. That's so dumb.
Yeah.
People,
But, I mean, those opportunities do exist, and I do encourage, like, if you are super interested in archaeology or history, cultural resource management in general, to attend local conferences, especially if you're in school, or you're thinking about what you're going to do when you graduate.
Yeah.
And there are tons of like internship opportunities, and even here on the Bitterroot, I mean, people can volunteer with us.
That's a good point. Volunteering's so big. Like, I wish I would have done more of it when I was younger, because I think it's how you figure out what you like and what direction. Like, especially if you don't know, like like me. I mean, I'm still kind of chasing my path, but I mean, I don't know if I would volunteer more, if I would have figured it out a little quicker, and figured out more. But I don't know. I guess I take that back a little bit because you evolve as a human, you know, and if you're still trying to like always find something new and exciting, you'll evolve and change and find something else you like down the road. So
yeah,
but
and all of your experience can culminates into who you are, and that's important too.
yeah, absolutely, and I think that's why like this podcast is doing all right, you know, and people seem to like it because
it's doing really good.
Yeah, thanks, I appreciate you trying. But yeah, I think it does all right though because I got a little experience in a lot of things and very little experience in a lot of things, and and I'm curious, so like just like passing like talking about, I think did you talk to me first about the lookout, and then like. Yeah, so I was like, oh, that is cool. What's that about? And then I started asking more questions, and I was like, holy cow. And, I think that's what led to this podcast, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, to this episode. Yeah, and it's cool. Because especially like that, like just more in passing. And didn't know if you'd be into it, into the podcast. So like I was hey.
I always say yes to opportunities.
Yeah, that's a good way to be, right?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like the volunteer thing. You then because either way, like however it works out, right? Like if you go and have a bad experience, like okay, I know I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Or it could be the opposite. You have like the best experience ever, and be like, wow, I want to do that more.
Yeah, I mean, I chose this career path based off an internship that I got
really?
when I was 19 years old.
Oh wow!
So I've been working for the federal government since I was 19, like on and off, because I went back to school and then went back. So.
Dang, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you worked out there, volunteering, and then found your path, and.
Yeah, and the internships are pretty cool. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Man, and now you're here doing a Halloween episode with me, talking about the Magruder Massacre. It's awesome.
Now I'm an archaeologist for the Bitterroot National Forest.
Yeah, even more important.
No.
No, but it really is though, because like the work you're doing is huge. Like we're talking, and it's weird because like it kind of incorporates like my ancestors, my descendants, from the Nez Perce tribe, and so it's kind of cool, because you're kind of like caretaking my history as well, and all of our histories really, we all come from the same place, but.
Well, I mean, my job is to serve the communities. I mean, I just want to protect the history and, do the best that I can with the best of my ability, with the best of what I know now based off our methods and technology.
Yeah.
I'm just doing the thing I think is best, and all I can hope for is that in 50 years when the next archaeologist comes in after me, I've done a good or decent job.
Yeah, totally. Like hand it off, and then like trace your stuff back, and like, oh yeah, this is great, and give a good launching point for them, because like I said, as technology and the techniques change, they can go back over and hopefully have some good like anchor points from what you said. Yeah. But, like some good anchor points of what like you'd seen and checked out and discovered and took notes on, and yeah, it's important. And I guess the last thing I want to we'll keep going down things. So like every time like you talk about something, it bumps me on something else we'd already talked about, our question I had, and I think we talked about LiDAR for a hot second.
Yeah, LiDAR.
Yeah, were you gonna use it on this forest? Or?
Yes.
Yeah. Can we talk about this?
Yeah, we can.
A second to edit that out.
No, it's okay. So in Region 1 of the Forest Service, we have something called Heritage Stewardship Enhancement kind of program, maybe, if you will. So we have some funding that's been put aside, and we put forward applications for projects that we'd like to do or that we need to do. So we put forward 2 projects this past year for that funding opportunity. One was for curation supplies. So I'll be working on rehousing our curation, like redoing kind of our curation facility.
Oh, cool.
And then the other project we put forward that was approved and we will receive funding for was to get a LiDAR machine. So this will be for the whole region.
Oh, wow.
But the LiDAR machine will be used to kind of capture different pictograph sites that we have on the forest. Because on our forest so far, what we've only found are pictograph sites, which is painting on the rock.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and we have some rock shelters that we'll use LiDAR for, because we have had some issues with looting at least one site, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, that's really sad.
Yeah, I mean, we had set up kind of like a game camera, and then somebody stole it, then put it back after they deleted the footage. So, I mean, that's not cool.
No. Smart.
Yeah, but I mean, is that cool?
No.
You just don't loot it, you know,
Yeah.
like, appreciate it. Don't loot it.
Yeah, because then you ruin it for everybody else.
Yeah, and you know, this is part of the indigenous community's heritage and history in this area as well. And by looting it, I mean, you're taking those artifacts that are sacred and they're meant to be kept in situ in this area, and you're removing it
Yeah.
to, I don't know, decorate your house, sell on eBay. I mean,
No.
it's not cool.
Yeah, because
It's disrespectful, I'd
absolutely.
say.
Yeah, 100%
It's illegal
disrespectful.
and disrespectful.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's power in those artifacts, and leaving where they
Yeah.
are is part of the power. And like for me, like thinking about it in like terms of artifacts in like your own like lifespan or your family lifespan,
Mhm.
like recent history, right? Like think about the stuff that's been handed down that
Yeah.
like you care about. You don't want someone else like just like
No.
like
Like
running
nicking it?
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Like, yeah, there's a picture of my family.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe because, I have had this training experience and I've gone to school for this, that maybe that's how I think about it. And for other people who maybe haven't been in archaeology and they just see this site, they're looting it, either because they know it's got goods or they're thinking about these artifacts as goods.
Yeah.
They don't really make that connection.
Yeah, I think me and James were talking about the Indiana Jones generation. It was like
Yeah.
you go and raid,
Yeah.
but you kind of missed the story of that movie, because the reason why he was taking it was to preserve it, because it was otherwise going to get sold or destroyed, right? Like I don't know, I'm trying to think of one of the examples that was like going to get sold. Like, and he's like, it belongs in a museum, like he's on top of the train. I think he was yelling because like
Yeah. Oh, but I
the guy's trying
mean,
to take it back.
was he? I mean, I guess.
Yeah, I think. Well,
It's hard, especially in archaeology, and I think we're coming to those crossroads now in this field of, we do want to preserve and protect, and we are very interested in history, and that's why we're all in this field, because
Yeah.
we're interested in this. But I mean, we have to remember that we are serving the communities, we are stewards of this information.
Yeah.
So.
How do you feel about Indiana Jones then? He's got a bad message.
I don't think he has a bad message. I think, I wasn't into, not this past movie, I haven't seen it, but
Me
the one
neither.
before that, the Crystal Skull movie.
I didn't see that one.
I did see that one,
Yeah.
because, I'd seen the first three, and as you pointed out, I am very young.
Yeah, so I'm kind of impressed that you saw the first three, because they're kind of even old for me,
Well, I mean, my dad is older, and so...
He's my age probably, huh?
No.
I'm just kidding.
He is, he's actually retired now.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Yeah, so he's older.
Yeah, so he's like in
but
the Indiana Jones generation, all that. Right?
Older.
Yeah.
Yeah, older.
Older.
He's older.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I saw Indiana Jones through him, and I don't know. I mean, we kind of did grow up watching these movies, and you are kind of looking for that excitement. But I don't think that's necessarily why most of us are joining the field of archaeology. Again, I mean, we just have a passion and a love for history.
Yeah, and yeah, kind of like you were saying, like his story isn't really like preservation. I mean, he's kind of saving it from like someone else from
Yeah.
taking it, but he's still taking it, and kind of like, and he always
He's still,
he
he's
always
still,
destroys the site.
yeah. He's still taking it. Like, he's
Yeah.
still excavating and removing it from the descendant and indigenous communities.
Yeah, totally.
And I think, at that time period, that was what was common.
Yeah.
But now I think we have a duty to kind of work. It's respecting. I mean, to work with the indigenous and descendant communities whose history we're so interested in telling, and
Yeah.
so interested in preserving and being stewards of,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of figuring out with them, like, what they're comfortable with in the confines of their culture, and how they would like artifacts displayed and stored. And that's been a huge push in curation world too.
Yeah, that's great to hear too. And I was thinking about this while you were talking too, about like a lot of times when people see like mummies and Egyptians, like they think of like a race that's gone, like Romans
Right.
or something, where it's like,
Yeah.
wouldn't a lot of stuff that you're going through around here, like the tribe is still alive and well.
Yeah,
So it's like
yeah.
you're dealing with like their ancestors, like not that far, down the road or in the past,
Yeah.
artifacts. So
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it in like the span of time, I mean,
And
it's important. Like, so often we say we're dealing or we're working with peoples of the past, but these people are still very much alive, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think people miss that when they think, because they I think a lot of times they go to like more of like the timeline, the break in the timeline, right? Like the history just stops, and then all of a sudden there's new people. But it's like,
well, and the history never stops.
No.
I mean, it just changes.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're just always adapting and changing to what's happening around you and your environments and your circumstances.
Yeah. And the messaging, like I said, before in the Indiana Jones days, it was like taken, like
just put it in the museum.
Put it in the museum, yeah.
I mean, that was the appropriate way. And like how I said earlier about how I'm doing things, in the way that I perceive as right, based off how I've been taught and what we're talking about now in the field and what's current and all this. In 50 years, it will change, won't it?
Yeah, totally.
And so who knows? I mean, I could be crucified just like Indiana Jones and everything I've ever done is terrible, and
that'd be unfortunate.
That would be, because I'm doing what I think is right, and maybe he thought fictionally he was doing what he thought was right, and that's not necessarily right from how we would look at it now.
Yeah, totally. So it's unfortunate because it, like he, could end up being the bad guy in the story when you're doing per the period, you're doing everything right in up to the standards,
Right. And I think it's also like a different mindset. I mean, that was just the mindset that they had then, and the mindset that we have now in our field is very different.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I think owning the story, I mean, like, taking other people's history and artifacts and sacred items and putting them in our museums might not have been the best call, and it, might be a little disrespectful, and there are better ways to go about, doing archaeology and historical research that are inclusive and all-encompassing and
and like
support it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like you said earlier, like respectful too, and and fire kind of has the same thing. I don't know if you heard, but like a lot of people call it the Smokey propaganda, because like Smokey's message has changed, and so like even when I first started, it was like all fire is bad, and that was Smokey's message, and he's just relaying like what we thought was the best practice, like put it all out, and then.
Well, and do they like teach you the story behind that?
Behind Smokey, or put
that
all the
message?
Fires out?
The 10 a.m. policy.
I don't know. I want to hear your version before I speak.
Oh no, I want to hear your version.
I guess you asked me first. I don't know. The 10 a.m. policy, like I mean, like put all fires out by 10 a.m. kind of deal.
By 10 a.m. the next day after they've been reported.
Yeah.
Or spotted.
Because that's like, and that's kind of the start of the smoke jumpers, right? Is like to get on fires quickly, put them out by 10 a.m. I don't know. I guess that's, but as far as my brain goes with it, I guess I'm trying to think.
So, like in 1910, when the Great Fires happened, there was this huge push afterwards for like total fire suppression.
Oh,
like no fire should be going. No fire is natural. And what we're seeing now, kind of in our landscapes, is that fire is a very natural component, and even the indigenous communities, the Salish and the Nez Perce, who were living in this area before, they were removed, and not all members of the Salish and the Nez Perce have been removed. Some live here in the Bitterroot.
Yeah.
They don't live on the reservation. Make that clear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're not just stuck there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, they were utilizing burning procedures to kind of manage vegetation in the forest too.
Yeah, for as long as they know. Like, as
so
long
they're
as
doing
we know,
prescribed burns, and then wildfires for the most part are pretty natural, and they kind of decrease density in some of the stands.
Yeah, and it's wild because the more you like look into the past and like kind of just more be, I guess, observational. I guess the kind of the word I'm looking for. Just like open to new ideas and old ideas, and more old ideas, I guess, but all ideas, I guess, kind of be open to it, and like kind of suss it out to see like what seems to be the best practice, I guess, and like we've had a lot of time to like look back on it too, of how we've been managing the forest since 1910, like you're saying.
Right.
And so me finding out more, I guess years after I started fire, I found out about indigenous people doing their own prescribed fire to help the landscape. And then our old poster for our old prevention trailer, that used to like carry all the prevention stuff and go like set up at like events to help teach good fire practices, had a picture of this red-headed woodpecker carrying a stick on a flaming stick like a fire ember, and what it was depicting was this woodpecker coming from a burned area, picking up a stick that still had fire in it, on it, like a hot stick, and carrying it to an unburned area and placing it so it's continuing the fire growth.
Wow.
And like as far as I know, that actually happens. So like even nature, like a bird is still like sees the benefits of fire, so it's trying to spread the fire to benefit itself and its probably like family or whatever, too, or just maybe itself, maybe it's selfish, but like probably it's species though, like has some kind of benefit from fire, this red-headed woodpecker. So it's like nuts to see that. But I understand it though. In 1910, the fires in 1910 were so gnarly. I mean, like horrendous. Yeah. Burned up whole towns, most of Wallace, like Taft, yeah, because all of Taft, right, got burned up, right? Yeah. Whew. Yeah, because I watched just a little like documentary part of the folks in Wallace trying to prepare, and it's like wasn't really. I mean, they knew it was coming, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to prepare for it, and still just took a giant chunk of the town. Like that would be so scary. And anyone who's been through Wallace knows that corridor is very narrow.
It is.
Oh, lots of trees.
A lot of trees.
Yeah. Well, shoot, I'd probably end it there, but I really appreciate you coming on. And
thank you.
Yeah, if I keep talking, I'm going to keep asking you questions. We'll be here all night. But and it's Friday, so I want you to, go enjoy the weekend. You're not working this weekend, are you?
Probably a little bit.
No, don't do it.
Well, don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it. Enjoy the weekend.
We have this conference, and then Matt's going to be out because he's got something going on.
Oh, gotcha.
So, I'm just trying to get prepared because we're doing a practice run through on Monday of our presentation.
Apologies for
okay.
the recorder dying on us. But yeah, like I was saying, like really appreciate you coming out and.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite, and thank you for allowing me to talk about history and archaeology and everything we do in heritage. Yeah,
what's important, I was reloading the barriers. You were talking about the conference, and good luck in the conference, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, like that's super important. Like you were saying, just like recruitment and just spreading the good word of what you guys are doing down here and really nationally what's going on probably around the world. I mean, that's what's really cool about archaeology. It's like, it's a global thing where,
it is.
I mean, fire kind of is, but not really, so.
Well, no, fire is. I mean, there's a lot of different fire suppression techniques and like prescribed burn methods that can be learned from around the world and different, management strategies.
Yeah, totally. And I guess I don't know enough about it to really speak on it as part of it too. Because like you said, especially the prescribed fire, like we mentioned for a minute, just like the indigenous people doing it to help soil and regrowth and like the serotinous cones, I think is the right word for the cones that come back or open because of fire, and are able to distribute their seeds because of fire coming through.
Right.
But yeah, well, I'll keep going, so I'll cut myself off. So thanks again,
just
Emily.
save something for the next podcast, right?
Yeah, for the next one. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope everyone else is too. We had some teasers out there that we'll get to, and we find out if that was a Friday the 13th. Yeah. So we'll track that down for next time.
Next time.
Yeah, thanks again.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned, and thanks everybody for tuning in, and I hope you all enjoy.
Thank you again.